Welcome to the latest episode of Guaranteed Audio, the number of which I'm not even going to bother trying to get out there. We get it wrong so often. I'm Kevin James, joined by my colleagues
Neil Ciceriga,
Ryan Murphy,
Dan Hamilton.
And yeah, we figured before the holidays wrap up this year, we'd get together and record a quick and dirty podcast. For those of you who aren't initiated, we are Guaranteed Video. We make short films and random internet content together whenever we get the chance. And yeah, this is, I don't know what, probably our 5th or 6th Christmas season we've made podcasts. We never really do Christmas shows.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I mean, we did our Christmas music video special 3 years ago.
Right.
But yeah, anyone else have any new business they want to get out of the way before we get into the rest of the show?
Do we begin with Media Current?
Probably, right?
Yeah.
Media Current is where we talk about media and art we've all been consuming lately, whether that's, a movie, a book, a video game, some chewing gum wrapper we read off the ground. Let's start with, I don't know, Dan, let me throw you under the bus. What media have you consumed lately?
Around this time of year, me and my wife, we watch a lot of those like Hallmark Christmas movies, particularly on Netflix. And I'm not going to talk about any of those. I thought about it, but I'm going to talk about Godzilla -1 because it's something that's actually good. No, we saw Godzilla -1 a number of weeks ago.
In the theaters?
Yes, in theaters. Nice. Cinema Salem, Massachusetts.
Hell
Please
yeah.
go there, support local theaters, fucking AMC. And what was really great about it is when I went into that movie, I grew up with a lot of like Godzilla on VHS, so I'm fairly familiar with the franchise. I've went into the 2014 Godzilla by Gary Edwards. Old Gary Edwards. Pretty excited, and it just didn't really deliver for what I wanted out of what that movie was sort of claiming to be.
Yeah.
And I thought Godzilla -1 kind of filled that role. Like 10 years later, it was a very strong story about post WW2 World War II Japan.
Yeah.
Did a lot in terms of, talking about patriotism, talking about sort of the darker side of post World War II Japan in terms of like information suppression, in terms of like the dangers that were happening at the time or what was actually happening with the country, all set to the backdrop of, oh, by the way, Godzilla's here. And it was fantastic. The music in that, the score was great. I'm going to keep things brief, and I'll just say, go recommend it. I don't want to talk about it too much because I really do think it is one of the better movies that came out this year.
Can I ask a very shallow question about the movie? Of course. How does it look? Like, not aesthetically, but like the production value, because all people keep talking about is, oh, this movie only cost $15 million to make, which is like a tenth what your average blockbuster costs, if not less.
So if you think about like an average Japanese Godzilla movie, like he's not in it that much.
Yeah.
It is mostly a human drama. And everything for that looks great. That said, when Godzilla is on screen, 90% of the time, I think he looks great. His introduction actually made me kind of like jump in like both fear and joy. It was like a jump scare. I'm like, oh shit. Oh wait, that looks really good.
Yeah.
There are a few scenes that are a bit jank, but like I'll kind of give it a pass because Godzilla to me, especially when it's coming out of Japan, has always had that nice veneer of schlock to it, which I think is kind of carried over into this CGI Godzilla they're doing with this movie. It's a good scale. There are some parts, of course, where a bunch of people get stomped on by Godzilla and they all fly up in the air like rag dolls, and it doesn't look that great, but I thought that was kind of amusing. But
sure. I
think it looks good for, if they said 15 million, I didn't realize that. It definitely has a polish to it that I'd even say some larger, bigger budget Marvel movies might not have. So yeah, no, it's a very aesthetically pleasing movie in my eye.
And if you're listening, fact check me on that 15 million number. I saw it getting tweeted a few times last month, and it shocked me because that movie's whole story, its claim to fame is it came out in very limited release. It was in like 500 theaters or something, and then within a week it was put into like 4,000. It was like a full mainstream release because the word of mouth spread so quickly. And yeah, the ROI in that movie must be insane. Because
100%. I mean, everyone in the theater was having a blast. People were cheering. Cool. People were screaming. People were crying. Like, it's very rare you go to movies these days and get those when they're not canned
Yeah.
like a big budget blockbuster.
Yeah.
So that was a very kind of rewarding experience to kind of close out my movie going experience this year.
I gotta see that damn movie.
So it's Godzilla -1 is in no way related to any other canon, whether it be Toho canon or the really dull American Godzilla. Kong Skull Island.
No, it's its own thing. It kind of does almost like a retcon of the original Godzilla movie. So it's kind of like, let's retell that story. Let's shift it back to immediately after the war.
Yeah.
They don't like delve into Godzilla's origins. Godzilla literally just shows up and they go, shit, that's Godzilla. We heard about him through like word of mouth, kind of like this movie.
I heard about him in Sunday school.
And then like when Godzilla gets his powers, it's like literally like a quick montage of like, oh, hey, they're doing nuclear testing post-World War in the Pacific Ocean. And you kind of just see a quick flash of like Godzilla getting some rays and then getting some cancerous growth. And cut to, it doesn't matter. We're moving on with the story. And then we'll see Godzilla again. And he's bigger and he's got atomic breath. And it's great.
Nice.
Cool.
Awesome possum. How about you, Ryan? You got anything good for Media Current?
Well, Godzilla and King Kong, who have another rather dull Millie Bobby Brown universe movie coming out in the not too distant future. What a good segue, because team, have I got apes on the mind. So I'm really excited. I like the modern Planet of the Apes, the trilogy with Caesar passing away, spoiler alert, and the fourth one coming out soon, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Inspired me to go back and rewatch not just the original Charlton Heston as Taylor Planet of the Apes, or the sequel Beneath the Planet of the Apes, where Charlton Heston is there for about 4.5 minutes at the beginning, seeks underneath, dare I say, beneath the Planet of the Apes for the atomic mutant men, and another actor who looks a lot like Charlton Heston but is clearly like cheaper and looks like he was a lot easier to work with. Then by the third film, because again these are from the late 60s and the 70s, my Media Current is Escape from the Planet of the Apes. Now at this point, Zira and Cornelius, the chimpanzee husband and wife, or boyfriend girlfriend for those who might be less familiar, repair one of the two spaceships, whether it be Taylor's from the original or other actor who looks like Charlton Heston from the sequel. They, along with a third ape, travel backwards in time to the 1970s America, where they become kind of celebrities. Again, the third ape exists long enough in the film to explain, we've traveled backwards in time, bam, shot, done. So we can spend, I gotta say, the makeup effects, when you've only got two apes, two talking characters, much better than when you're trying to get a whole team of extras.
A whole planet.
A planet, dare we say.
The milieu of the apes.
Now, it's not until the later acts of the film that, because here's the thing. In Escape from the Planet of the Apes, which is borderline a schlocky comedy, it's absolutely wild that they've gone this far removed from Rod Serling's like The World Turned Upside Down Twilight Zone episode stretched into a feature-length film, all the way to the atomic nuclear men of the sequel who worship an atom bomb and destroy the world at the end. They destroy the world. And yet there's a third one. Actually, there's 5 in the original version before we get to the Tim Burton verse. But this one is the first one where we introduce the character of Caesar. That by the reboot, by the, dare I say, much better movies, Caesar is the leader of the ape folk, the ape people, the planet of said apes.
I'm imagining Dan Rathers tweeting about the ape folk with folk capitalized.
There's a delightful, by like the final act of the movie, we meet Ricardo Montalban, who some of you might know from, of course, Wrath of Khan.
Freakazoid. Oh, sorry.
Freakazoid. I was going to actually bring up the Star Trek movies because do you think Star Trek 4 was inspired by the Apes movies? Like, how do we spin this in an original way? Oh, why don't we go back in time, in quotes, to modern day America?
No, because they did that enough in the original series.
Yeah, they cut some corners there. Unwhale related, if I may. But Escape from the Planet of the Apes, because after that it gets really dark, and it's clearly an analogy for like race riots and social disruption in America, and marginalized folks like going like, if we don't get justice, we're gonna get revenge, and it gets dark. It gets very dark. By the 5th one, they ran out of money. Mad Max on a budget. But yes, Escape from the Planet of the Apes. What an ape-tastic ride. That's what I got.
I didn't realize Heston was in the second one.
For at the very beginning and the very end. Meaning that he probably wanted more money, and they went, we can make this movie without most of you.
Is it like a video transmission from apeified Earth or something? Like, how does he show up? I assume he doesn't take a spaceship back.
No, he's still on the planet of the apes.
Okay.
The non-Taylor Charlton Heston, but like more affable and younger and more, clearly kinder to other people around him. He's there on a rescue mission. He's there to find the astronauts from the original Planet of the Apes.
See. Okay.
So when he finally finds Taylor at the end and the Atomic Nuclear Men.
Are those movies, like, having never seen them, I've only seen the new ones, the ones by Matt Reeves. Are they worth it to go back outside of like cultural curiosity of like, oh, I want to expand my media literacy and see these? Are they actually good?
First one, yes.
Yeah.
You can skip the other. For media literacy, just for like tongue-in-cheek references things, the first one is the best shot. It's honestly, the cinematography in the first one's kind of interesting. Sound design's kind of cool. The ape makeup is, for the time, it is what it is. And it was the height of what Hollywood could possibly do. And also, Rod Serling was only attached to the first one. Yeah.
If you need a good, quick laugh, you know how Variety does those YouTube videos where they bring actors in and they have them talk through their most well-known roles?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
They did that with Paul Giamatti, and I was listening to that yesterday while I was doing some yard work. And every time in one of those videos they cut to a new movie, they have the actor say the name of the movie and then the character they played. So it'll be like Arnold Schwarzenegger going, the T-800 Terminator 2 or like whatever.
Paul Giamatti, John Adams.
So I've listened to so many of these. I wasn't prepared for this. It's so funny. It's going through the timeline of notable Paul Giamatti performances, and then it gets to the MoGraph for Planet of the Apes, and then you just hear Paul Giamatti off micro, Limbo? What's Limbo from? And a producer goes, Planet of the Apes. He goes, oh yeah, the ape's name was Limbo. It's so funny. I'm so glad they left it in. But,
that's great.
But yeah, then Paul Giamatti in the interview talks about how his agent, when he got asked to do the movie by Tim Burton, was saying, you need to play a human being. Don't play an ape in this movie. Like, play a human being that's in the very first minute of the movie or something. Like, just tell him you're not going to do it. And apparently Paul Giamatti is like a huge fan of the old movies.
Oh,
so
that's
he's like,
cool.
So he's like, no, if my career crests and this is the only big movie I do, I'm playing one of the apes. And they apparently gave him the best special effects makeup person because he had the most complicated makeup, and it got done. And apparently his makeup was doable in like 2 hours, which was insane compared to
Tim Roth and everyone else.
Who's the big? Yeah, but
Michael Clark Duncan is the gorilla.
Who's the big bad? Is it Tim Roth? Is the big bad?
Tim Roth's
movie?
the
He's a
that
chimp.
one.
He's the asshole.
Helena Bonham Carter's the other.
Yeah,
lead.
I always think it's
hers
Gary
looks
Oldman.
terrible.
I always think it's Gary Oldman.
I could see that. I could see conflating that. And his father, the dying chimp, played by Charlton Heston.
Yeah. I've never seen that movie. It's bad, right?
Yeah,
It's
that's
bad,
not
but-
worth revisiting.
I hate Mark Wahlberg.
The effects are like the makeup is like worthwhile.
Yeah.
Hey,
Some of
good
the stunts are
segue.
fun. Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg ruining a beloved franchise.
Oh,
Can you
yeah.
think of another franchise he's tied to, Kevin?
Yeah, my media current will be the video game Max Payne 2 because as of this recording, James McCaffrey has passed away. I think it was about 5-6 days ago. And for those of you listening at home who don't know who James McCaffrey is, he was 65 years young. He was an actor, did a lot of TV, a few movies. But for people of a certain age, he was most importantly known as Max Payne in the 3 Max Payne games. He did the voice in all 3 games, and he did the physical likeness for Max in the 3rd game, which I loved that he did that. Have any of you played a Max Payne game other than just watching me play Max Payne at some point?
No.
No.
Certainly never finished, but have I dabbled in it? Yeah, of course. Do I know the character? Absolutely.
I was pretty bummed. I woke up that morning and, I do the thing everyone does. You look at your phone just to see the headlines. And the first headline was James McCaffrey, known for Rescue Me, Sex and the City, Max Payne games, has passed away. He apparently just did like a tour de force performance in Alan Wake 2, which I haven't played yet. But I guess he's all over that game. And he was in Control as well. I thought his performance in Control was really cool. We're old enough now that I think I have to give context for this. in 2001, I want to say, when that game hit shelves, like on PC and PS2. I think the original Xbox got it shortly after. That performance in that game was unlike anything else mainstream gamers had experienced, because it's a third-person shooter. Yeah, you jump around in slow motion shooting mobsters and stuff, and predominantly at night in New York City while it's snowing. But it was a voiceover. The character was supposed to be kind of like in your head. So if you played that game with headphones on, there were some cool, clever writing tricks they came up with. You know, Max would be like, "Oh, I noticed that door was now open," like that kind of thing.
It's like a very film noir kind of narration style.
In doing that in a video game with good voice acting and good like storytelling chops, which Sam Lake brought to the table, the writer of those games, those first two games did, it was something very special. Particularly at the turn of the century when video game technology was rapidly evolving. Like 3D games had finally been like solidified.
Yeah, you're talking about a time where classic, like very, very big franchises like Resident Evil and Silent Hill 1, big games, big sellers, but even for like that industry standard, voice acting and character
Laughable.
Laughable is the word. Yeah. It was just okay to have bad acting in a very big hit. Even something like Metal Gear Solid is like so easily parodyable when it's taking itself super seriously. And then to have Max Payne like, no, we can do this right.
You know, for teenagers who were very excited at the time to play competently designed 3D action games, which were still a new thing circa 2000, 2001. You know, this is when like the GameCube and the PS2 and
I'm also picturing, a famously silent protagonist, Grand Theft Auto 3.
or Half-Life or whatever. There wasn't a lot of like decent main characters in these games. Max was not only in a fantastically well-made game on a technical level, but James McCaffrey for those three games is constantly talking to you, saying things that are riddled with humility and self-loathing and self-reflection over like, I'm just another guy shooting people. It was the first time I experienced thick meta writing. It's very Twin Peaks. It's very post Metal Gear, right? But McCaffrey just nailed those lines. And I've read interviews with him when he said, he said things like, I lack the ability to appreciate video games. I'm really not a video game guy. But he understood the assignment. He knew how cool he sounded. But yeah, I just wanted to shout out to James McCaffrey. Huge part of my adolescence and my burgeoning appreciation of the medium of video games around that time. Yeah, if you've never played a Max Payne game, they're really cheap on Steam. They're like $5-6 a pop. Fantastic games. And his voice acting is cool as hell. He's my generation's Dirty Harry, as far as I'm concerned. How about you, Neil? Have you consumed any cool art lately?
Oh, not a lot. You can probably tell my voice is shot right now because I've had a cold for the last week or so. I'm getting over it now, but it sounds very low and deep like this.
Tom Waits talking about shitting his pants in jail.
I shit my pants.
I was in that jail one night.
But no, I've been stuck in bed a lot. I needed something mindless to just throw on, something nostalgic. I decided to rewatch after a long time to finally rewatch the Coneheads.
Wait, are you fucking kidding me? You watched Coneheads this week?
I watched the Coneheads.
I watched Coneheads this week too.
Wait, oh nice.
I also watched Conehead. This is actually this is crazy.
You watched the movie or the SNL sketch?
I watched a couple sketches and that made me want to watch the movie.
I watched both as well. We're all Coneheads.
Wow.
Wow, it's a Christmas miracle.
Wow.
It'll be real great.
Coneheads from 1993 is the subject of today's show, apparently. Directed by the fellow who directed the Ninja Turtles movie.
And a lot of music videos.
What's his name? Not a Henson.
It's something.
Steve Barron.
Yeah, not Steve Bannon.
Not Steve Bannon.
Notes.
I had that thought. Wow, the credits came up. I was like, oh, he wasn't. No, different guy.
He directed a lot of music videos.
Take On Me is one of them, right?
Oh, Jesus. That's awesome. Yeah, so we all just coincidentally watched the Coneheads movie.
Imagine that. I mean, it would be like really uncool if we actually like planned out a whole episode to talk about the Coneheads movie. But since we all watched it, let's just talk.
Yeah.
As we all joyfully take notes on all media we consume, let's rock and roll.
Yeah.
We each have our Steve from Blue's Clues notebook that we keep on our couches.
How else will I keep all my ape films in order? It's so confusing.
I'll start. Did y'all, I assume, watch this as a kid?
Yes.
I definitely saw it on like TBS or
On
something.
TBS.
This is a real stealing cable back in the day.
Yep. On cable. I feel like it was kind of a Blockbuster rental once or twice.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I rented it at, like my grandparents a couple times, and then probably saw it on TV like 2 times after that.
I think I saw it once in my early 20s as well, but I didn't. I barely recalled it until this week, and I ended up watching it 2 nights in a row,
Nice.
which I never do. But because you can do it with this movie because it's only like 88 minutes or something.
Yep.
It's really fast.
It zips.
Including
Yeah.
credits.
Yeah.
Before we get into what makes the movie special, I have to say, sidebar, because the very, very beginning, before we even see our first cone or our first head, that when the Paramount Pictures logo comes up
Yeah.
with this beautiful, its iconic stars wrap around that mountain, missed opportunity of a lifetime. Why doesn't the mountain turn into the cone-shaped spaceship? Why doesn't the Paramount Mountain turn into a Coneheads cone head? Why doesn't the Paramount Mountain fade into anything cone? Missed opportunity. I cannot be the only one who thinks this.
You know, David Kirkpatrick said no.
This movie was supposed to be a Halloween film. It was supposed to be released in October because, hey, it's about a bunch of aliens from space, and you got Dan Aykroyd
Yeah.
helming half the wheel. But apparently, Lorne Michaels and the people at Paramount decided early on in filming, this is going to be a summer movie. This is going to be a big deal. This movie's
Wayne's World had come out the year before. Right?
Bingo.
correct. And this was only the 3rd Saturday Night Live movie.
Right.
Isn't that crazy to think?
I want to say Blues Brothers is 76, 77.
80, I think.
It's
80,
It's
okay.
right around the beginning of the
So we
80s.
have a big gap between Blues Brothers, also, of course, co-helmed by Dan Aykroyd,
Daniel Aykroyd.
until this wave that really hit the nail. Yeah, for after Wayne's World, which almost certainly cost a lot less money. Really fun, arguably funnier. But yeah, Wayne's World hit the nail of the park of, hey, we can go back to the formula of stretching out, fleshing out SNL hits into feature-length films.
I wonder now. This is something we have to keep in mind. We talk about this off mic every now and then. We got to keep ourselves fresh with our references to newcomers who are just trying to find something to listen to. People, how old do you think you have to be to know what the hell the Coneheads are?
35.
35? You think a 30-year-old, someone born in 93, which is when the movie came out, right?
Yeah.
Would a 30? Do you think a 30-year-old would know what the Coneheads are?
Knowing that they just did a whole Conehead gimmick in season 7 of Rick and Morty that came out within a month and change ago.
Oh, for real?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Really?
Yep, it's a joke they reference twice within 60 seconds, which is exactly how long of a reference this should be, of Coneheads. Yep, moving on. I mean, I would bet the average Gen Zer had to look up what a Conehead is. Yes.
What do you guys think?
Perhaps.
Do you think-
I think it's one of those things, if you see the cover once, you might ask someone about it.
Yeah, I
don't
was
know.
going to say, like, I feel like people probably 30 is the cutoff. And it's probably like if you're in the Blockbuster video or the West Coast video, you see that like bright VHS cover,
Yeah.
blue, sky blue.
Deep pink.
Yeah. Dan Aykroyd, Jane Curtin, the other one on the cover.
From Dazed and
This is like
Confused.
Brendan
yes.
Fraser had a band. That's Airheads. This is Coneheads. Get your shit together.
Shit, Airheads. I gotta watch Airheads.
Also, really
Stevie
quickly,
Buscemi.
really quickly, the VHS, as I mentioned, like that sky blue cloud background.
Mhm.
Isn't it the same one in the Wayne's World? In Wayne's World
It
2
was,
ones?
Yep.
where
it was a running theme with SNL.
That's what I
movies.
thought.
It was
Okay.
Lorne
All ha-
Michaels' idea.
Very similar. Yep.
That was his. The opening of every Marvel movie has like the comic book pages.
Mm-hmm.
That's the SNL movie equivalent. Is bluecloud.jpg layer 1.
Although-
Actors layer 2.
Although not an SNL skit, it would not surprise me if Encino Man's VHS cover is really similar.
Yeah, I watched
Sure,
Encino
yeah.
Man a month ago.
Encino Man's great. But yeah, it does. Yeah, that cover doesn't exactly sell the tone. It kind of does, I guess. But like, the similarity to that and Wayne's World led to me, like, thinking for years that there were 2 Coneheads movies.
Yeah, I watched it with my girlfriend Stacy, and she said right as the credits hit, "Is there a second one of these?"
It's kind of a Mandela effect.
It feels like there should be a second one because the first one's
Yeah.
so tight and likable. I've seen people online comment that they have these vague memories of it being a TV show because it was on TNT and TBS and Sci-Fi Channel so much, and it feels like a sitcom. You know,
It's like episodic and also like the way it's
very vignette-y.
very vignette is a good way of putting it.
Yeah. For the uninitiated, Coneheads is one of the oldest reoccurring Saturday Night Live sketches.
It started in the second season.
Yeah.
So,
And
there's probably older ones.
So
But
that's like 78.
something like that.
Yeah.
But actually, you'll never guess who the host of the week was the episode that the Coneheads were introduced.
George Carlin was hosting a lot back then.
Wasn't George Carlin.
Okay.
President Gerald Ford.
You're closer.
oh my
Jimmy
God.
Carter?
Al Franken?
It's Ralph Nader.
What?
Unfortunately, Ralph Nader does not show up in their sketch. I didn't bother rewatching the old sketches other than the one with Frank Zappa in it.
Yeah, Frank Zappa did like a song about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about if we want the Frank Zappa song. It's not his best work, but Frank Zappa apparently liked the Coneheads so much that he wrote. It was a song he already had, and he added lyrics to it about the Coneheads, and it's got some dirty jokes in it.
So it's his Candle in the Wind. Is what
kind
you're
of
saying?
it's his candle, his Conehead in the wind.
Also, while we have already addressed staying topical for the kids at home, the Gen Zers, the whatever you want to call yourselves, and younger, Ralph Nader. In short, 30 seconds in and out. If you have a seatbelt in your car, you can thank Ralph Nader. Moving on.
The whole sketch was born out of Dan Aykroyd being extra stoned and wanting to make some comedy characters up. I think he said it was based on This Island Earth, the old sci-fi movie.
In This Island Earth,
Normal view.
Damn.
Mystery Science Theater, the movie. The aliens in that movie, lovely Technicolor, This Island Earth. They just have very big foreheads, not cone heads, but tall tops of their heads, and nobody draws any attention to it. They're just like,
Yep, we all just act like that's what normal people look like.
That's like the whole joke of the Coneheads, right? Is like no one ever says like, why do you have a giant head? Why do you talk like that?
Yeah, I think
They're
that
clearly
is...
aliens.
Oh, they're from France.
Yeah, they're from France.
They are from France.
Mm-hmm.
So in the movie, the Coneheads are on Earth. They're stuck here, and they're waiting to get rescued at some point. It's going to take some time before the Conehead.
It's gonna take 7 Zerls or whatever, or something like that. I don't know.
Which is like 16 years.
Something like that.
Based on their reaction to that whatever that Romulakian unit of measurement, we know is a long time to wait for rescue.
They make it seem like it's be like 100
Remul-
years or something. I don't think they ever say exactly how long it's going to be, so it's a surprise.
I
when
want
it
to bring
actually
that up
happens.
later. There's some time abstraction during a montage in the movie that could be 5 years or it could be like 16.
Yeah, no, see, like when I watched the movie both this week and when I was growing up, I always had assumed that like the child Conehead, which we'll get to, was like really 5 years old.
Yeah.
And they were just like, again, going back to like no one's questioning if they're aliens. Like she goes through preschool and then next year she's in 5th grade and everyone's like, yep, that's normal.
Yeah.
That's how I read it.
Yeah.
But who's to say?
She-
They
her,
leave
na-
it
her
vague.
name's Connie, which is kind of funny.
Yes.
That's she's in the original sketches too, but she's played by
Lorraine Newman.
Yeah.
And in this movie, they brought in 3 actors who played 3 friends in Dazed and Confused. It's Joey Lawrence Adams, Parker Posey, and the woman who actually plays Connie in the movie. Who's it? What's her name?
Connie Conehead. which,
Michelle
yes.
Michelle Burke.
Michelle Burke. So the movie is basically a series of it's them trying to fit in and exist in America, living out the American dream, dodging immigration officers, or one particular one played by Michael McKean, waiting it out until their alien friends show up and rescue them. There is a deleted scene that was shown on the TV edits of the movie. That's the cold open of the film. There was a completely different open that they shot where Phil Hartman, playing a Conehead, rest in peace, gives Dan Aykroyd, Beldar, the instruction to go start conquering Earth.
Conquer Earth, yeah.
Yeah, and then they get to Earth and they're immediately shot down by an F-16. They cut out that. They just kind of cold open in the edit we've seen, in the edit that everyone's seen, the theatrical release. it's just a bunch of like people at NASA barely paying attention to their radars and such. It's a guy watching the Gorn episode of Star Trek.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Captain Kirk and the Lizard Man.
He's paying attention to Star Trek instead of an actual alien showing up on Earth. It's just funny.
Yeah.
I like that the movie just starts. This movie's got places to be. It's not even 90 minutes, right? 1 hour, 28 minutes. It's 88 minutes.
It starts to feel a little chopped up at the end, and it is. But up until that point, I felt like, oh wow, this movie's got like great thrust to it.
It knows when to change gears. It really knows when to like, okay, moving on. New cameo.
And our movie
Oh my
is
god, the
book-
cameos are just
Yeah. Our
abundant.
movie is bookended by some great special effects by our man with the plan, Phil Tippett.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This movie came out the same year as Jurassic Park, which, I'm assuming Coneheads did not have a comparable budget
No.
to Jurassic Park. All right. So we've laid the bedrock,
The foundation.
the foundation of the movie.
And as we've already hit the nail on the head there of, this is not going to simply be Leo DiCaprio pointing at the TV. I know that, but this supporting cast is unbelievably, like, it is impossible to ignore. We won't even actively understate it, but wow. First one we see hitting the ground running, Michael Richards.
Oh yeah, that's right. Michael Richards is in like the first scene of this movie.
Yep.
The thing about the cameos in this movie, in the supporting cast and the players that show up, hell, even the Conehead actors themselves, Jane Curtin, Dan Aykroyd. This is where the out of touch references really hit the road, because everyone that we probably go, oh wow, Sinbad's in this, Eddie Griffin's in this,
Tom Arnold,
perfect use.
Drew Carey. Like,
Drew
yeah.
Carey.
The Price is Right. Yep, there you go.
Did Drew Carey even do anything?
He was a stand-up comedian.
No, I mean like in the movie. I remember
was in
him
the cab.
getting into a cab.
That's it.
He asked
That's it?
he asked to get somewhere, and Beldar says he'll get them there like better than any other taxi.
Oh,
driver,
right.
basically.
Yeah, it's a waste of Drew Carey.
He has another scene that's on the TV version, but that pencils up, man. That doesn't count, right? But basically, if you're listening and we're naming actors that you really don't care about or if you don't know who we're referencing, that's the generational divide. Watching this movie as someone born in 87, almost every scene, I was like, oh my god, that's cool. Phil Hartman's in this scene. Oh, that's really cool. So and so's in this scene.
Yeah, like Adam Sandler, everyone's gonna know that. Kevin Nealon, maybe not. Actually, speaking of Kevin Nealon, I do want to mention that I did listen to a couple podcasts ago. I think your media current, Kevin, was
The Conan O'Brien, Rob Smigel,
talking about a unproduced SNL movie based on Hans and Franz, which would have been in production like a little before this.
Yeah.
So they were trying, I guess, concurrently with Wayne's World to get other movies made. For some reason, this one got through. I wonder if it is because of Star Trek's resurgence in popularity, because this is a big Star Trek riff in a lot of ways.
I think you might be able to point to The Simpsons, and maybe there's some like Exhibit A there. Like, hey, listen, we can do like suburban, like live action cartoon stuff. And this movie's look is very Spencer's Gifts circa 1993. This is very like showy, kind of like a lot of wide angle lenses, high shutter speed. The compositions of the Coneheads, like a lot of the framing around them, there's a restriction. They always include the entire head, unless it has to be an extreme close up for like an eyeball or something. But that shit gets really funny because you forget about it, and every like 20 minutes they kind of like wink about it, and it always got me. You'll see like the top of Beldar's head behind a fence and something like that.
They also do that great thing that too many understated acting technique, because they are giving, outside of being funny performances, really good performances of they almost never blink. Yeah. I was looking for either one to blink. Their daughter blinks, but their daughter's been, she's grown up on Earth. She understands even though she speaks like a Conehead, she also has like emotional affectation that they do not and never pick up, not even a little.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are one of those, it's not Anthony Hopkins playing Dr. Hannibal Lecter, but these actors never blink.
Okay, I'm just going to go through the cast list real fast on IMDb. Not everybody, but if any of these names ring a bell, congratulations, you're probably pushing 40. Dan Aykroyd and Jane Curtin, along with Michelle Burke as the Coneheads, of course. Adam Sandler, this was his first movie role, which Dan Aykroyd got for him. Lorraine Newman from SNL, she plays Larta, another Conehead. Chris Farley, David Spade, Michael McKean, Ellen DeGeneres, Parker Posey, Sinbad, Phil Hartman, Michael Richards, Tim Meadows, Jason Alexander, Dave Thomas, Jan Hooks, Eddie Griffin, Joey Lawrence Adams, Garrett Morris, Kevin Nealon. Like, it's just nuts.
And
Like,
if that sounds like a lot, like most of these people have a line. Some of them don't even have like off-screen lines. Like Ellen DeGeneres is the swim coach, if I'm
I
correct.
completely missed Ellen.
Yeah, she's the swim coach. Like her lines are muffled because it's really just like you're watching her talk to Connie from the Coneheads perspective. So like it doesn't matter, but she's in it. She's in the movie.
I feel like if maybe the question came up of like, this is a sketch from the 70s. We're trying to make it in the 90s. We need to put not so much original era SNL people, but try and get as many current SNLers in it as we can.
yeah.
So you got Chris Farley and Adam Sandler and stuff like that.
And Jon Lovitz, of course.
Jon Lovitz.
Jon Lovitz, man. So
So it feels like I'm probably alone in this, but I'm not a huge fan of early SNL. Just doesn't do it for me. But I love the SNL I grew up with, late 80s, early 90s, Conan O'Brien era sense of humor.
Conan O'Brien shot a scene for this movie that got cut.
Is
Was he a
that
Conehead?
He was back on Remulak, right?
Remulak.
Remulak. He was back. He's one of the Conehead aliens back on their home planet during like a big scene. And the last 20 minutes of this movie were cut down a lot,
yeah?
just to get to the finale. And you can find Conan talking about this on YouTube. He
Is
showed
he in like the dinner scene or something?
He's not in the final cut of the movie. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what scene he was in. But they asked him to come in, and he just anyone they could get from SNL, they basically threw in this movie, including him.
Well, you know, it's something I thought about when watching this movie this week was a truly disastrous baby boomers clutching on to what power and time they have left, which is not this movie. This movie's not necessarily a passing of the torch, but it does recognize that some of these baby boomer SNL folks are middle-aged now. So you get your Adam Sandler when he still looks like a teenager because he's practically a teenager. You get your Chris Farleys. You get your right in between of Jon Lovitz.
David
And I think
Spade,
about David Spade. You get the
James
next
Spade.
generation of folks and actually like give them a hand to pull them up on stage right there with you, as opposed to the exact opposite of that, of baby boomers refusing to give anything up, nothing but trouble. Also steerheaded by SNL alum. It was, nothing but trouble. Also steerheaded, steamrolled, piloted by Dan Aykroyd, among other things.
He kind of like the directing of that movie was apparently thrust upon him.
Yep.
And he just said, to hell with it. Let's just make it.
Let's go nuts.
Because every director they had kept backing out.
But what a much better example. And the fact that they're both about SNL alum for the most part. And the fact that they're both starring Dan Aykroyd, co-starring Dan Aykroyd. Of here's
Under
an example.
prosthetics.
Yep. A lot of, a
you
lot
sure
of
about
prosthetic on.
Let's get to it. So this movie, the humor of the Coneheads is that, yes, no one seems to call out that they're clearly extraterrestrial. But they talk in a very 1950s pulp alien vernacular, like very like very over syllabic, overly technical. No one ever has to think or pause.
There's probably some race on Star Trek that spoke like this.
Like they'll call coins like metallic currency discs, stuff like that.
Yeah. And it sounds dumb as hell, but it always makes me laugh. Especially Jane Curtin's deliveries in this movie.
I'm pretty sure they popularized like parental units, mass
Parental units.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
mass quantities. Like if you hear your parents say that stuff, it comes from SNL.
Yes, it totally does.
Yeah.
Her delivery of her little talk to Connie about their sex life.
Yes.
And it's like eventually it just became repetition out of nature. It's fine.
I love
It's
it.
a great line.
It's a really
There are no boyfriends. There are no girlfriends, husbands or wives. There are genetomates. Like
I'm gonna say we're gonna talk about Dan Aykroyd a ton in this. He's like the main character of the movie.
he's the glue. Yeah,
Jane Curtin, I wish she was in it a little bit more.
a little bit more.
She's, I think, a better actor than
Well, she's
Dan Aykroyd.
she's a really powerful spice in this movie. Like she's allowed to be weirder than him.
yeah.
And he's still the weirdest goddamn thing you have ever seen.
I know,
The
but
fir-
it makes me. I mean, she plays the straight man on Third Rock from the Sun.
And this is a complete
This is
flip.
the complete opposite. She's just great. I love her.
Yeah. They have to fit in. So like they crash land after being shot down. And Beldar, the father, this is before they have a kid. He has to find work, so he just gets work at a fix-it shop run by Sinbad.
Sinbad. I forgot that. Yeah, Sinbad.
Sinbad's really funny in this movie. Particularly the scene where Sinbad's character Otto loves Beldar because he shows up on time. He does a good job. He's like what is he like? You're like quadrupling the amount of like work I get done here. This is fantastic. But eventually he needs Beldar's social security number so he could file tax paperwork. Beldar,
That's a really funny exchange of Dan Aykroyd for all of his incredibly idiosyncratic, like carbonated beverages designed to be consumed. It's like he can't improvise when he's going like 3, 7,
When he's giving the social security, like, of course I have social security.
He's throwing in numbers and decimal point. Like you're lying. You're lying, and you literally. Apparently, Remulax can't lie. They fucking suck at it.
There's a great bit. It's one of my biggest laughs in the movie where Sinbad says like, "Oh my God, you don't have a social security number. I knew this was too good to be true, and I got to figure out what to do with you. Well, where are you from?" And Beldar looks off to the stars and he says, "I am from the planet Remulac," and he starts to explain just literally where he's from. And Sinbad gives him like 5 seconds, and he goes, "Wait, just quiet, whatever. Okay, hold on." And he starts to like think of how he's going to solve this problem. I don't know. That made me laugh pretty hard. That was like Sinbad's timing there was excellent.
I am an illegal alien from the planet. It was like, you're right. The less I know, the better. Like if I have to lawyer out, I don't want to. Yeah, don't tell me.
Yeah, Sinbad. He only has a few scenes in this movie, but he's really fun in all of them. I like how kind of real every supporting actor gets to be in this movie. Because they're all, I think the secret sauce for people our age is that these are all sketch comedy actors for the most part, or stand-up comedians who play very broadly and loudly. So to see Jason Alexander play a normal person, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or Jon Lovitz play a normal dentist, you can feel the leash on them in every shot, and they're allowed to let out just the tiniest bit of absurdity, clown shoe acting. And I think it plays great. Like it's Sinbad in that moment, like playing the guy who's like, "Oh, great. Now I have to get you a fake social security number."
I think most of them come from a sketch comedy background. They understand the assignment and what they bring as the straight man to the completely ridiculous cartoon.
And Aykroyd is willing to be like the most like weird, off-putting, like that's
just Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah. And the first act of this movie, he's got like the shark teeth thing going on. He's like,
it's three rows of fangs. They're nightmare teeth. By the way, for a comedy, there's some body horror in this film.
Yeah.
Great body horror.
Experimental CG stuff.
A little bit of experimental CG.
Some of it works, some of it's
yeah, but like the practical effects in this movie are pretty dope.
They're pretty good. I love Dan, you and I were talking offline about this. Going back to the cinematography of the movie, it's weirder looking than I remembered in a good way. Like I said, wide angle lenses, playing with the crank speed of the camera.
Right.
Some funny sound effects for basic stuff going on, like people opening doors, like the Coneheads, Primat and Beldar. They move in a very peculiar way with some camera tricks.
They're very stilted, and then sometimes Dan Aykroyd will perform a scene like he's fixing something, and he's doing it very fast because he's efficient at it, and so they'll do some speed ramping up. But again, I don't think it was filmed at a faster frame rate, so like there's jerkiness to his speed ramping while he's doing the action.
Yeah.
And they do that a lot. It's very like Looney Tunes, but not a fluid like a Fleischer cartoon or anything. Like it's just like herky jerky. He's fixing a thing in his hands.
Yeah.
And moving almost robotically.
There's one bit where Beldar's sitting at his home computer and he's like typing. He's either at a computer or like a typewriter or something.
I think
he's doing his taxes.
It's a laptop.
Oh, it's a laptop, but he's got like a pipe in one hand and he's like typing with the other hand.
Yes.
And it's sped up for some reason. It's like he's like in the background of the shot. It's like 3 seconds. And the sound effects of the computer are like right out of Star Trek. It's supposed to be like a normal, like personal computer from the 90s. But there's the Coneheads themselves are supposed to be off-putting and hard to get comfortable with in the first 20 minutes, I want to say.
Yeah, they only move in right angles.
They eat toilet paper.
Yeah, they eat toilet paper.
Especially with his teeth. It's just awful.
Yeah. The scene where Primat tells Beldar that they have a baby on the way and she says, "I am with Cone." Mm-hmm. And Aykroyd's like in the middle of eating something and I think he still has the shark teeth.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And he like goes, "With Cone," or whatever. And it's like the most like unflattering close up of a leading actor in any movie, because comedy movies used to have expressiveness to them and actors that didn't have to have abs or like hair plugs and shit. Like Aykroyd's just allowed to be the weird guy. So, you know, Ellen DeGeneres, Adam Sandler or whatever can come in and act like a normal human being around them.
I also got to say,
to that point, and with what we were talking about earlier with all the cameos, I was just thinking, like, what if Bill Murray showed up in this movie? I don't think it would work. I don't think he could do like the second fiddle character very well.
It's not even an ego thing. It's just I don't think his comedy chops play great to that.
Yeah.
And this doesn't sound the weirdest damn thing. The formula of this movie makes guys like Tom Arnold come off crazy funny to me. Like Tom Arnold has like one line in the movie, and it's the funniest thing I think I've seen him do. Tom Arnold shows up for a hot second during it's like a golf course scene.
This is like almost at the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's like an hour in. No one's pointed out that the Coneheads look like monsters. And Tom Arnold's like a groundskeeper or something at the golf course, and he sees Dan Aykroyd, and he just goes, "Whoa, what's up with your head?"
And the scene just ends.
He's the first person in decades on this planet to ever acknowledge.
That's a softball right there for Tom Arnold. Like, yeah, okay, hit this out of the park, please.
You know, something I thought about watching the movie again was, although there's arguably negligible progress in terms of their Remulakian, if you will, the lack of affectation of any emotion in their speech or their speech patterns, there is a learning curve in terms of them recognizing personal space. Because when they first get to Earth,
Sinbad points it out.
have no idea what personal space is in the Western world, or in the human world. The first one, Michael Richards, he is right on top of that man. And Michael Richards is not a little guy, but he's got that.
It's so weird to see Michael Richards play it reserved, especially for this point in history. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You know what? When I think of him, I don't think of a reserved
person.
Period.
Yeah, there's very little.
He say it
in my mental index of Michael Richards imagery. There's only like 4 things I can think of. It's Seinfeld, the YouTube video.
UHF.
UHF and Problem Child. Like I can't think of him. I can't think of him playing like reserved or small. But again,
the fourth thing is his apology video on.
It's not funny.
It's Jerry Seinfeld shaming the audience for
laughing at Michael Richards.
I know.
Yeah.
Great stuff. God. Great stuff.
So I'm
jealous.
So what on the whole, I want to I want to talk about the aesthetic of the movie. Do you guys think, because a lot of stuff from this period, kind of like broad, family-friendly comedy vehicles, even if they had a big budget, which this movie does not, I think they tended to look kind of boring and vanilla, like that early 90s look, right? Something like in Airheads. No offense to the aesthetic of Airheads, but it's not. Airheads was not made to look as incredible as like
not
Die
cinematic.
Hard. Yeah.
Encino
Shut
Man.
your fucking mouth.
It's just, easy to go down. You know what I'm saying?
Biodome. Yeah, Encino Man. This type of comedy.
This is more on the Stay Tuned. Mom and Dad Saved.
Yeah,
This is the high. This is the high concept.
Stay tuned and Mom and Dad Save the World wish they were this though. I think.
But we're saying aesthetically, like they're in that ballpark. They're like outfield.
Sure.
This is infield.
This movie, I think. What do you think of like the camera work in this movie? Because there's some cool, expressive stuff that pops up every couple of minutes. Like they'll mount a camera like Sam Raimi style to like someone's wrist as they're pointing at someone.
Every once in a while, it kind of jumps out at you. I think it's It's like not a consistently great looking movie, but every once in a while, especially when they go to Remulac, looks really good.
You could list I think you could list 10 standout beats, which is impressive for how quick it is. Like obviously the spaceship showing up, the fireworks scene, the dentist scene. I love the montage of Connie growing up, the birth scene, which is nuts. Oh my god.
All right, yeah. So her water breaks.
Primat. She's with Con.
Primat. Yeah, I remember that shot of like
And it's 1,000 gallons.
It's 1,000 gallons.
Physically impossible to come out of the
Anything.
I vaguely feel like maybe I didn't know that's not what it looked like as a kid, where I was just like, ugh.
It's heavy drama.
From the
It's high
ratio
drama.
of surface area to mass, that much fluid could not possibly have come out of. Could a Remulakian, could a Conehead have their mouth open 3 sizes that big? They're aliens.
Were you worried when you were having your daughter that was going to happen?
It's like, it's gonna happen. Gonna need new floors. Yeah, I was just gonna say you haven't been using that sound effect enough.
Going to the birth real quick though, what was with the 90s trying to tell us that like you can bring your friends to the birth into the room? There's so
whole
many
gang's
movies
here.
that did that.
Yeah, at this point in the movie,
All hands on deck.
okay, so at this point in the movie, when Connie's about to be born,
Sinbad's still in the picture.
Sinbad's there.
Yeah, what happened to Sinbad? Like, he feels like he's supposed to be a recurring character, but like
they're on the run from the government.
Yeah, I guess they never see
He's
him
no
again.
longer the Chico at that point.
Yeah,
The Chico.
and it's Sinbad and it's Kudri, his boss at the taxi company, right?
Yeah. So yeah, at this point, Beldar's already had to change jobs, I believe, because
They get raided by
U.S.
the feds.
immigration. Yeah, the
Yep.
feds are on top of them, and the feds in this movie that are going after them are played by Michael McKean and David Spade. David Spade, one of the more funny things I've seen him do. He's playing like he's a very specific type of yes man.
A kiss ass, if there was ever a kiss ass.
There's an innate unlikability to David Spade.
He's a
that
glory
yeah.
stealer.
He plays it. He plays it up though. Like he
Yep,
wants to be
right.
the voice of. He wants to always be the bearer of good news.
I like this more than, like cool guy David Spade.
Yeah. But
Weird note here, by the way. David Spade and Chris Farley in the same film together never share a scene.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Farley and Adam Sandler in the same film together never share a scene.
I really like Adam Sandler's quick scene in this because
Me too.
We got to talk about that because it's very special to
we're all over the
us.
place. We're still in the first third of the movie, I guess. But
We're trying to stay there.
Sinbad's trying to get Beldar a social security number and a
Gets him a
fake,
fake- yeah.
and a fake ID. So he hooks him up with his buddy Adam Sandler. Again, first speaking role in a movie.
Yeah, his character's name is Carmine Wiener.
That's good.
The scene's fun because it opens on a shot of they're in a booth in a restaurant. Sinbad's in the middle, Dan Aykroyd's to the left, and Adam Sandler's to the right. And they're all just kind of doing a really good job filling the roles of the scene. Like Adam Sandler's allowed to be the crazy one, which is weird because he's sitting across from Dan Aykroyd and Conehead makeup.
Not even like in a hidden booth in the back of the restaurant. There's like a family like in the table right next to them while they're talking about identity fraud.
And Sinbad's just
Loudly.
there nodding agreeingly, like he's there to facilitate this exchange. And Adam Sandler feeds Beldar what his new life is going to be, whose new ideas. Hello, Mr. Thompson. It's that scene.
Yeah, this is a good use of Adam Sandler. Young, like pre-mega fame Adam Sandler.
Pre The Voice, Adam Sandler.
Right,
None of that.
he's doing a character. He's sticking into the character, and it's the identity he gives to him is what is it? Something
DeChico.
Daniel DeChico.
Daniel DeChico from
Brockton, Massachusetts.
that's
Oh,
where
my mother's from Brockton.
That was a good use of Adam Sandler. Like
my mother is literally from Brockton, Massachusetts.
my boss is from Brockton,
Yeah.
Massachusetts. I sent him a screenshot of that.
My parents grew up in Brockton, Massachusetts. I think they say something like "nice town" or something. They make a joke about it, which I don't know if anyone broadly got that, but I think at the time, especially, it would have been known as a not a very nice town.
We're about 5 minutes away via car from Brockton, Massachusetts.
Yeah,
And we live next door to it. So like Stacey and I both like, oh, Brockton,
yeah,
Massachusetts.
that's fine.
It happened to me about a year ago when we watched The Menu.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Brockton, Massachusetts. I think I honestly think they picked Brockton, Massachusetts because it's funny to picture Beldar saying Brockton, Massachusetts.
it feels like a very Dan Aykroyd pull for some reason.
Yeah.
Brockton. He gives him like an Italian identity.
Yeah.
I think like the only famous person from Brockton, Massachusetts, especially back then, was Rocky Marciano.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the joke there.
Not letting Dan Aykroyd make some Canadian joke of like, that like no one knows the town you're from, Dan.
They
His Canadian accent comes through a couple times.
Oh, yeah.
in the movie. He says sorry, but in sorry like
it's never quite as bad as Venkman, I'm sorry. It's never quite that on the nose.
yeah.
Do we want to go back to we got to talk about Michael McKean. Michael McKean
yeah.
deserves like an hour. I think Michael McKean
He steals the show.
By
That's my
the
favorite part of this movie.
By the second scene he was in, I was like, this is the reason we need to talk about this. I've always been a big fan of Michael McKean. I love pretty much the entire cast of this movie in some fashion. Like it was great to see even like Jen Hooks show up for a bit to play the other woman.
The other woman.
Holy shit, that sets up a funny scene. But Michael McKean, how to describe him? He's the evil G-man of the movie. He's the main immigration officer that's going after the Conehead family. He figures out that there's an illegal alien, an illegal immigrant working under false pretenses because the social security number that Beldar's given by Adam Sandler is from a dead person, right?
That has recently blipped way too many times on the record. It's a number used obviously for identity theft.
It's like the
identity
one that
fraud.
Adam Sandler always uses. Like he's not good at it.
He's
It's
got
like
one.
it's like the serial. It's like the serial code that everyone uses to register Cool Edit Pro 2.0.
Yes. That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, everybody's thinking it.
But Michael McKean is really into his job, but I don't even. How would you describe this, Dan? Like,
I'd say like he is a proto-Trumpian
Yes.
who only wants to excel in government for his own, I wouldn't even say like personal gain, but like personal triumph.
he wants career mobility.
He wants
to go
career
up the
mobility.
ladder.
He wants legacy. His opening scene is he's talking to some other member of government. He's in a much lower level of immigration right now, and he's going like, "Look at when we get the illegal immigrants from Mexico, we'll put a collar on them, and then we'll put an invisible fence under the ground of the border. So when we put them back in Mexico, if they try to come back, they'll get a little shock." And he shows like a little Doc Brown
It's like
diorama.
Mr. Burns would
Yeah,
have.
yeah. And he makes the little guy cross the thing, and he sets on fire, and he goes, "Well, it won't be like that, but you get the idea."
The guy he's talking to is horrified because you fucking should be if you think about human beings the way this man does.
Well, he gets
There's a
he
payoff.
gets a collar later on in the movie.
Yeah. So Michael McKean is this guy who, again, he takes a lot of pride in his work because it's like a very Hank Hill approach to work ethic, but he has like a lot of work ethic over being a fucking monster. That's the joke, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and they don't hang a lantern on it. It's just McKean's performance. He knows how to play to the camera. He makes some great facial expressions. He and Spade work really well together.
And it's interesting also that as it's not like his motivation. His motivation is to climb the corporate ladder, the government bureaucracy ladder. It's not like he's like, no, never leave a stone unturned, never leave a case unfinished. When they leave an unfinished case, like that's somebody else's problem now.
That's the best joke in the movie. That was the minute I texted you.
But what about blah 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 blah? Like I don't care.
Yeah,
So
there's a scene where they're about to catch the Coneheads. Like they have them dead to rights.
It's half an hour into the movie. They have the Coneheads cornered. It's over. There's like seriously like 40 cop cars, like countless police officers. There's probably a helicopter. Michael McKean's in his trench coat with like a lot of blue backlighting, like something out of The Fugitive, right? And he's, no joke, about to walk up the steps of the Coneheads' home to get them. And David Spade runs up and goes, Sir, I just got a fax. You've been promoted. And McKean goes like, "Oh, thank God." and he just goes to walk away from the house. And David Spade stops and goes, "Hey, don't you want to catch these guys and like put them in prison?" And he goes, "Oh, nuts to that. Let the next guy do it." And he just walks off camera. And we don't see McKean for like a good 15 minutes.
I thought he was done.
I thought he was out of
That's
the film.
so funny. He spent like $300,000 trying to catch these totally like, and this is why I think the movie stands the test of time. The intention of the movie. The Coneheads are thoroughly illustrated as weirdos, but phenomenal neighbors, hardworking, trusting, willing to learn. They bring a lot of value to their community.
maintain the family structure, good spouses, parental units.
They're model citizens.
Every character
Yeah.
points out, like, you show up to work on time, like this and that. And it's highlighted that McKean burns like hundreds of thousands of dollars and immediately doesn't care about the job anymore because it's no longer his responsibility. So he just walks away.
I would draw the comparison I would draw is Walter Peck in Ghostbusters.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
insane.
Which is handled very differently, but they kind of serve the same role in the like vaguely libertarian like vibe of both movies. Ghostbusters more so because it's about like starting a business and like, you know, don't
What threatens enterprise? Regulation.
right. Whereas Coneheads is much more like anti-border patrol, like
1993.
It's
Nineteen-
it's
yeah.
pro-immigration.
it's pro-immigration, pro-American dream. and like it's a it's
Yeah, for all the ways
It's
that the Coneheads stick out, it's never that they're a problem. Like they're
Right.
Because if they were a problem like once with their monster teeth or their freakish features, their ass is in jail that night.
Yeah.
but whereas like it's inherently absurd that like the EPA becomes the villain in the Ghostbusters, it's handled more comedically in this, but it's also like much more of like
Haunting.
a real life like
it's real. It's
yeah,
actually
like-
haunting.
yeah, like actually fuck these policies.
Yeah, fuck this guy. Like every time McKean shows up in the movie, he's just being a monster, like verbally,
and plays it well.
Yeah, McKean's so funny.
He's
in
a
this.
great character actor in that regard. David Spade, who's also playing a shithead monster. I think I wrote in my notes like, I can believe that David Spade is racist in real life. Like it doesn't seem like he's doing that much of a stretch here.
The scene where I think Michael McKean is like has to answer in like court for spending all that money
because he's about to get. It's supposed to be like
his review
15 or 16 years later, because this is so basically it goes from this very Spielbergian scene where the feds are on the front steps of the Coneheads house and McKean just says, "Oh, to hell with this," and he calls it off because he got promoted. It's no longer his job. It immediately cuts to this saccharine American Dream montage shot
Wonder
on like
Years kind of
16 millimeter, maybe. Yeah, 8
their
millimeter
home,
even.
their home movies raising their daughter.
great way to cover 15, 16 years.
With Paul Simon, who married Dan Aykroyd's girlfriend, Carrie Fisher. So I guess they were still pals.
Aykroyd seems really easy to get along.
I think
with.
Aykroyd's a cool dude.
You see Connie growing up, and apparently baby Connie is played by Dan Aykroyd's actual daughter.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love this scene as a father of a young daughter.
I figured.
Yeah.
Not all the jokes are like home runs, but it's the sweetness of the movie kind of matters more at that point.
I watched this with Ming, and like we like held hands a bunch, like watching this movie. It was like pretty sweet.
I figured that would happen. Yeah. So that's how the movie kind of time dilates. Like, okay, we got to like cut to much later in their lives. They look exactly the same. Everyone looks exactly the same.
Now, I assume by the time Connie is now, 17, 18-year-old, going to prom, high schooler, I'm assuming it's supposed to be 1993 at that point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Assuming. Yeah.
No, they make that clear in the movie that they landed in the 70s or 80s.
Yes.
Yeah. Because the Star Trek's on, right? I guess I didn't catch that. Yeah, that's probably. I mean, Star Trek could be on.
Well,
in
Star Trek
reruns.
was like even 10 years before that. There was something where they did indicate, I think during the Kevin Nealon scene where he is interviewing Michael McKean for the position, they talked
15 years ago.
Yeah, 15 years ago. You know,
Oh
it was
yeah,
19
they don't do a
something.
lot of like period set dressing or anything.
You could. It's kind of ambiguous. You could
Yeah.
say like maybe Connie grew up over the course of like 4 years or something. But that scene is where Kevin Nealon's about to promote Michael McKean to like some sort of director position,
Secretary of Racism or something.
Secretary of Racism, and then it just comes up. Oh, so 15 years ago, you wasted $300,000 on and you just see the smile wipe off of McKean's face. It's such a great motivation for McKean's character because again, it's not really about the fact he's a racist pile of crap. It's because, oh, that job of mine, it's coming back to haunt me. He just looks at the Conehead family as another shoe that has to drop.
It wasn't me. It was Jimmy. He changed the numbers.
So that's why McKean re-enters the story, not because the vendetta is completely career-based, and it's something they were absolutely oblivious to. It's all about the job for him. He doesn't really... I don't know. A good use of Kevin Nealon. I think you said that earlier, Neil. But Neil, it's like he's one and done. You know, he plays a good G-man. It's a good use of him, I think. I think every SNL cast member that comes back, like Chris Farley, I thought he was used pretty well in the movie too. That he kind of becomes part of the story at this point when Connie's like a teenager.
He's fixing their car, and that's their like
Meet cute.
Yeah, and I think it's fun. I don't know if. Is he supposed to be a teenager or not?
I always have wondered that. I'm like, is he supposed to be 30 or 18?
See that I think we all are on kind of the same page of what is when we know that they're gonna go to prom by the end of the movie. She is still a high schooler. I could see Chris Farley being 20. Like, yeah, not gonna go to college. He's out of high school.
He
maybe
was 28 or 29 when they filmed it. She was like 24, but he's a wreck of a man. That's the Chris Farley joke, right? Like he's like the way he screams and stuff. He just sounds like he's had a few too many miles on him at this age already. Like that's
But at this point in his career, like most of his characters are also like man children. So
Yes.
like
Yeah.
they date. We'll get to it a little bit later, but like he has a line like, "I pick you up, I take you out, we hang out, I take you back, we never kiss." It's just like
Yeah.
a 30-year-old man wouldn't say that.
I know. I think he's supposed to be playing a
Yeah.
teenager.
I
And it's
think
supposed to be a little funny.
I think he's supposed to be just out of high school, still dating a high schooler. That's, I mean, it's not, it doesn't really matter. They're just kind of cute. And it's more important for her to be a teenager for the whole, like, oh, look, she's a second generation American immigrant. Look at Connie. She still has the very well spoken high density vernacular, but she talks like a Valley girl, like her actual accent, which is a fun combo. I like that she can hold her own talking with Primat and Beldar.
And like
about-
Chris Farley stood up to her dad, who never, like no one ever does,
Yeah.
like when he gets angry. So like that's the attraction point.
I did laugh at Chris Farley. So Ryan and I talk about this every now and then, like in the car or whatever. I've never been a huge Chris Farley fan. He makes me laugh a lot in like Dirty Work and stuff like that. I think he has an undeniable screen presence and all that. But I've never been one of those. I need to go back and watch like Tommy Boy and Black Sheep and all that stuff. And this, I think he's got some charm, right? I don't know. I think I think like when he gets the date with Connie and he looks over at another guy working at the garage with him, and the other guy like gives him like a thumbs up or something because he got a date, and like Chris Farley looks like proud because he just got a date with a girl, but he got a date with a girl that's clearly an alien. I don't know, like it that joke keeps resurfacing in very cute ways, I think, in this movie.
Yeah, they give Chris Farley's character a lot of lines. By the time he's introduced as the love interest, he's a big part of carrying the story forward, and it never feels like he's trying to steal scenes.
Yeah, as
he's
an actor,
sharing the
yeah.
space just like everyone else who had like a fraction of his time.
I don't know, that on the golf course when he's yelling from across the golf course to Beldar, like, "Hey, Mr. Conehead."
He gets one really good.
Yeah,
nail
that's I
scene.
think his like one steal.
Yeah, I know what you're saying though. He's. I think a lot of the people working in the movie at that point had buckets of respect for Jane and Dan. Right? They're like, oh, these are like the progenitors. Like these are like, this is kind of like an SNL victory lap movie. I don't know. I just think Farley, he's a big ingredient in the movie. In the second act, I'll say he kind of does he even really matter in the third act. He kind of disappears.
He's got a great line.
Yeah, he's got a great scene. But I don't know. He's another supporting cast member. I just like hanging a lantern on, I guess. I don't think he's as good as McKean, but it was, to Ryan's point, it's cool to see all these like SNL chess pieces that had never been in a movie together, like being kind of like never the two shall meet. Adam Sandler's not going to run into David Spade, you know. Where do we go? Okay, so Chris Farley meets Connie, and the next movement of the movie is their relationship, like going sideways, seeing Connie. Oh, there's the diving scene. There's the
Yeah, they do
on the swim team or the
the
diving
swim team scene
yeah.
with Ellen DeGeneres.
Yep.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you know,
But long before we get returned to the planet Remulac, we're seeing a couple of things of them settling into middle age. Their daughter is dating now. Beldar is interested in things like country clubs, golf, status symbols that he would have never dreamed. He is gone. This is an old school term. It's really problematic. He's gone native.
Yeah.
Picturing that stupid trophy getting a cone head on top
Great joke.
it's a great joke. It's a type of thing that him fresh off the spaceship would have never ever dreamed of, and yet now these are their priorities.
I love Jason Alexander as his like neighbor friend who when you first meet him, he's wearing a really obvious toupee.
But you don't know it's a joke until like the second scene.
Yeah, the next scene is when he like brings it up again. He says like,
Beldar.
Yeah.
yeah, no, I wrote a note going like, "This wig is awful," and then I remembered like 2 seconds later, like, "Oh wait, he's meant to be bald."
Delete the note. They're fitting into the burbs, and there's a few. This is where like a lot of like the shortest vignettes appear in the movie, like the quickest joke payoff, setup payoff, including Primat thinks Beldar might cheat on her because Beldar gets a job as a driving instructor.
It's like Richard Dreyfuss and Mr. Holland's Opus,
very
like to pick up a
specific.
couple of bucks on the side.
No, I think he owns the company. I think he starts his own
Yes.
driving school.
It's
yeah.
like a throwaway joke from the SNL days. Like it's when
That was always his job, I think.
yeah, but like it's never. I watched one of the old sketches, and it's Bill Murray as a game show host talking to Beldar, and he just says, "I am a DMV instructor," or whatever it is, and they feel beholden in this movie to any previous Coneheads canon.
We come from France.
We come from like there was a half an hour Ralph Bakshi produced.
It's Rankin Bass.
Rankin Bass. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, a Rankin Bass cartoon. They only made the pilot for the Coneheads cartoon like 1980 or something. They aired it as a special because they made the pilot. They decided not to make a show, but they're like, well, we already made it. And Aykroyd and Jane, sorry, they both did the voices for it. But everything in that cartoon is parlayed over into this movie. It's all there.
Yeah.
Like it's weird. It's like it's kind of a condensed version of that story from like 12 or something years earlier, and it was like a forgettable cartoon not many people saw. I don't know. They just they just sourced all the main plot beats from that cartoon.
I mean, that goes back earlier to like the Wayne's World of success. Hey, let's start rolling at SNL films. Oh, what do we have already in the can?
What can we do?
Hey, we have this, Rankin Bass Coneheads movie. Let's make it an
I've always
action
felt,
movie.
yeah, I've always felt that would make a great feature.
Yeah, Dan Aykroyd, would you want to say really stretch out Coneheads to be a thing? Like, I have a 400-page script. Of course you do. Of course you do.
You have a 100-page script. That's great.
When do you, Dan? When do you want to talk about Ghostbusters 3? Oh, Coneheads! Been waiting for you to ask me that for 20 years. I don't know how old it was at this point. I looked it up. I could have sworn, but like I was certain, like, oh, they must have brought back the Coneheads for like a new skit on SNL at some point.
They
Nope.
did some
You mean in
commercials.
93
There's
to
a
promote
couple-
the movie, right?
He was on one episode in 1993, right before the movie came out, playing Bob Dole or something like that. Like, and he,
He could pull it off.
no, they only did Conehead skits in the 70s. They stopped.
I can imagine Jane
never.
Curtin being like, I don't want to put that shit on again.
I've actually watched interviews with her talking about how difficult it was to do the makeup because she said applying the makeup wasn't that hard, but getting it off because you have like minutes between sketches.
Oh, yeah.
Like they literally would just rip it off your head. And she said every time we did it, I got welts every time. And they sometimes didn't heal between episodes, because I only had a week to like get my skin back in shape.
But they did do a couple State Farm commercials in 2015.
There were parodies of other State Farm commercials.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
I want to talk about the other woman bit.
Jan Hooks.
So Jan Hooks is a student of Beldar's. Her name's Gladys Johnson, apparently. And she comes on real hard to Dan Aykroyd, who lets her know in the most blunt, irrefutable, like unambiguous manner that they can't hook up. And he even says like, it's only natural you would have feelings for me.
You're a driving instructor.
It's a tale as old as time. Lady falls in love with her driver's ed instructor.
Of course you would. But the payoff being that
You're
Prime-
wise beyond your years.
it's a little thin. I think there's supposed to be more connective tissue that got lost in the edit. But Primat, Jane Curtin, she walks past Jan Hooks at the grocery store, and Jan Hooks is supposed to be dressed kind of suggestively. It's not that risque, but for some reason it makes Primat really insecure about her sexuality. Like, oh no, is Beldar not into me anymore? So Primat goes out and gets an outfit and gussies herself up to look like an Earth woman. Like she wears like this
Big ass beehive wig.
yeah, it's like a Goldilocks
Like
wig.
Mars Attacks type of, yeah.
I thought she was supposed to be like
Marilyn Monroe. Or
pre-revolution France.
Marie Antoinette.
Marie Antoinette, yeah.
Beldar comes home from work one day and there's like a bunch of candles and roses on the floor, and he follows them upstairs to their bedroom.
No. he goes to the fridge. It leads him to the fridge to drink a Mai Tai that's like the size of his head.
Yes, yes.
And then it just has him turn right back around to the living room, which he had to pass to get in there in the first
I
place.
didn't catch that. That's good. That's good. And he sees her, and she says like "Hello, Earthman" or something like that. I thought that was funny as hell. I thought that was one of those ideas in ink and paper I wouldn't trust, but watching it, I'm like, this is cute.
What's great is also like the lead up to that is Jason Alexander's wife in the movie is also like trying to like not egg her on, but like she's going, oh, Beldar's seen another person, I think, and like that is what gets into her head, and then she starts reading like trashy magazines.
Oh yeah,
that
she
have,
buys like a whole shopping cart full
of them, and she's like reading them. So she's clutching one in their bed, and a funny gag is the Coneheads do not lay down in bed; they stand up.
They sleep vertically.
They sleep vertically, but the bed is still a bed and has sheets that defy gravity.
They do that joke like 2 or 3 times. This movie always makes me snicker. Yeah. Like they really like laid on thick, like it's a great special effect or something.
And they keep treating it like a reveal. Like every time they show them in bed,
it's like dancing on the ceiling.
Yeah.
But bedside tables are assumably like just nailed to the wall. Like
right. But she and then asks, Beldar, like, if I were to die, would you remarry? And he goes, no, I would, bury you as custom, and then I would shit myself to death, and it would be horrible, and I would be sad forever because that's how much I love you. And
she falls in love with him all over.
Yeah, he goes, you have made me proud. He goes, I know. Let's go to bed. And the first thing I thought was, I have this conversation with my wife almost every night. Like she'll just be like, Dan, what would you do if you murdered? Like, how would you murder me if you really had to? And like she's trying to get like, how would you love me more? I'm just like, yeah, what do you want me to say? I saw myself in that scene and I didn't like it.
I think us getting older and being kid, like it being a somewhat kid-friendly movie that we all got to see when we were real young, makes this, it's obvious why I think this crew would be okay with the movie. I'm not gonna lie, I was very worried up until this morning that I was gonna be the only person that was okay.
You picked a stinker.
I picked a movie like, oh come on, Dan Aykroyd.
What are you talking about? We just all happen to have watched.
Oh, I'm
movie.
so sorry.
Right.
And in my defense, I did watch Dragnet this week for the first time, the 1987 Dan Aykroyd movie with Tom Hanks and some other people I don't recall. And that movie was surprisingly disappointing. I thought that movie just didn't have enough gas.
And that movie is not Coneheads.
The movie's not Coneheads, but yeah, Coneheads. I'm glad. I think we're at the right age to return to it, especially you, Neil. Like with a daughter and everything. Like, this is the part of the movie where the date rapey thing happens with Farley, and I don't know how else you could do it if other than the way they directed it. It's supposed to feel uncomfortable, but do you think it's supposed to be funny? That because the whole hook is that Chris Farley's character has been dating Connie for a bit, and they haven't even kissed yet, right? Because she's like completely asexual, and when they finally start to kiss in his car, he like caresses her cone, and it makes her uncomfortable, so she immediately like shoves him violently.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like he's getting grabby, but the joke is he's grabbing her cone.
Yeah. But like, I'm so into like the mystique of the movie, I found it really uncomfortable that he was like fondling her head. Is it supposed to be funny that like that's like supposed to be going too far?
I don't know. But I mean, it's true. They do like. One thing I had forgotten about this movie is that their cones have magical powers.
We haven't even talked about that.
Do.
Every once in a while, they don't do it a lot, but if they'll
little hand-drawn lightning comes out.
Yeah, like lightning comes out of the tips of their cones.
Ernest goes to jail. Lightning comes out.
And like the way they have sex is by putting senso rings, like playing ring toss with their cones. So it is supposed to be like some sort of strange erogenous thing with them.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think it's a little dark. Like, like I think it's important that he pushes her too far, in some way, and that he has to like earn her trust back or whatever. Plus, it is funny to watch Dan Aykroyd chew him out.
Right, and I think that's what they're like. I think it was meant to be a lead up to that joke of like, oh, we're gonna have the overprotective dad, which even though in this case it's incredibly justified, so we can show Beldar doing an alien version of that, which is he rips the top off of his car to yell at him and then says he will make his life miserable and kill him, and then he puts it all back and goes, thanks for not destroying my car.
That was kind of funny.
My car back.
To hear Chris Farley like meekishly behind metal going like, all right, thank you.
When he comes back like at the golf course, I think he says like, I hope you didn't hurt your hand ripping open my car. Yeah, he basically gets back in everyone's good graces, I think, by How does he do it?
He doesn't.
It's kind of weird that when it comes to the scene of him getting grabby, we are not supposed to be on Chris Farley's side.
Yeah.
We're absolutely not.
Right.
It's not Biff Tanner bad, but Biff Tanner's a monster.
Tenon.
Right, Tenon. Apologies. But his forgiveness from Connie is not warranted either.
It's just desperation. Like, please forgive me. Like he apologizes, and she. I think. I mean, I'm putting words in this script's mouth at this point, but maybe she's just supposed to be like, all right, well, he doesn't know that this is like an erogenous zone for me. But like, I don't know. That's me being charitable. Like he's played so shucks, and at least he was.
I think he just like. I think
he didn't realize he was fucking up by touching her head. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what.
Well, yeah. He says he feels really bad, and I think everyone just like, yeah, like it's Chris Farley. He's this guy can't lie.
Yeah. He's not. He doesn't have a poker face.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's. I thought that moment, and
it's also for you said movies an hour and 28.
Yeah.
I mean, we need some conflict.
Yeah.
We got to keep things roll. Yeah, this one huge strength of this film, it does not waste a second.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like we didn't write enough Michael McKean in this movie. What do we do? Oh, we make the boyfriend scum for like 5 minutes. Let's do that. There, conflict.
that he visits her when Connie's doing the swim team meet, where she's about to do her big dive, and
Which of course is supernaturally perfect.
really funny. Like that's a joke that you just have to trust the writer. Like it's gonna be funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like
She's gonna take him to the States.
but like because the whole joke is Connie gets up on the diving board, dives, does like a somersault or whatever, and then when she lands on the water, it's so hard to describe. There's just it's like it's as if you had a football shaped rock.
She's shaped like a torpedo. It just goes right in.
That's the joke.
Yeah.
I think she's
It's
really
so
aerodynamic.
funny. It's so funny. But Chris Farley's there apologizing, and he says, "That was such a jerk," and she walks away, and he goes, "Okay," like as if they're fine now, and she doesn't react. But that's where Beldar and Primat get asked to participate in more after school activities. Or something.
Someone from the PTA is like, I've never seen you at these things before, because again, at this point, they're actually acclimating to being suburban parents. So they go to her swim meet, like, oh, Beldar, Pat, I haven't seen you before. What committees are you on?
And then Beldar says,
I love this part of the movie, not just this particular part, but like right now, Beldar really he is acclimating, he is enjoying himself.
He wants
but
his golf trophy.
He wants the golf trophy, but he doesn't want to admit that. He wants to go home to Remulac.
Yeah.
So like he just has this constant expression of annoyance to everything that is happening around him.
Yes.
And I think it's just really perfect of like him trying to wear this mask of no, I'm still a conehead. I don't want to be
human.
He's in denial.
a blunt head. That's what they call
Blunt
it.
skull.
Blunt skull. That's
Blunt
it.
skull.
Blunt skull.
Yeah, a lot of slurs in this movie. Anti-human slurs.
I could see myself like about to swear in front of a kid and then calling someone a blunt skull to save grace, save face.
Listen here, you blunt skull.
It's kind of a phrenology term, I guess.
Yeah.
Is this around when we see Beldar's ass?
Yeah.
Or we
At the
don't
golf
see-
course.
What ass?
We don't
Or
see
lack
his
thereof.
ass. Yeah, he's got no ass crack.
He looks like that senator in the first X-Men movie.
So it's got those two little nubs also.
The
above.
He's got
nubs.
nipples on his butt for some
The
reason.
nubs.
That's it. I always had like a vision of this scene, but like I couldn't tell if it was from Coneheads or from Alien Nation, the 1988 Mandy Patinkin Alien movie, or the show based on it. I feel like those guys also have some weird like nubs on their butts or something.
You know what? Coneheads, the movie, owes probably a good amount to that, right?
Maybe. I've never watched the whole movie.
I've never seen the movie or the show.
Yeah. The movie was like, I watched a bit of it, but it was like the satire of it was like so ham-handed. I had to shut it off.
Sure,
Right.
like well intended, but like this movie, by being a comedy, buys it. The levity buys it a longer leash. I'll say.
Yeah.
And again, this is still kind of body horror, but played for laughs.
It is-
It's
there's
not society. It's not like scary.
It gets to society in that dentist scene. I think. I bet there's people. I bet there were kids freaking out in that theater when that movie came out back in the day.
I'm more freaked out by his ass. How does he shit?
How does
Well, we don't see his front.
Out of his cone.
Going back to the dentist scene real quick, I love Jon Lovitz in that scene because, like, going back to the Coneheads, no one is really paying attention to him. Again, Beldar pulls down his jaw to reveal 3 mouths. He wants them all capped so he looks more human. And Jon Lovitz just stares like, all right. Then he gets the nitrous gas, realizes he can't fit it over mouth, just shoves it in the
Into
hole.
his-
Gonna
And
crudely
then pulls
leaves
out
it
a
in the
cigarette
mouth.
and smokes. Just like, yeah.
It's gonna be a minute.
Yeah, it's going to be a minute.
When I watched this with Stacy, she got a good kick out of that scene. Having, because she works in the dentist's office. And like, just like the
Does
amount
she
of,
smoke in the dentist's office too?
all the time.
Yeah, okay.
No, they,
Dan Aykroyd smokes a pack at a time.
I like that shot. I really like that beat. Like, there's a lot of superfluous like bits of physical comedy acting in the first 30 minutes that
There's a
I'm
lot
glad
of,
they got left in. I'm glad they all.
like
Yeah.
prop guy assignments. Like you need to make like a pack, like a row of cigarettes, an entire carton of cigarettes that lights up all at once.
Yeah.
Like that must have been like a little electronic LED thing or something.
They loved that shot of Jane Curtin vacuuming with her own mouth because it's in every ad for
Yeah.
the movie.
Nope, you're right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny looking, like when she pulls the dust out of her tongue. Like,
It's like that. Connie eating the sandwich. There's a lot of mouth stuff going on in this movie.
okay, the sandwich scene, weak CGI,
Yes.
right? Like
Yeah.
it's a very basic morph effect. We could do it in like literally 10 minutes right now in After Effects.
Better.
Yeah,
Even 10 minutes better.
They go to a Subway. It's very clearly a Subway, and Connie wolfs down her sandwich in like one bite, pretty much. And Chris Farley says something to the tune of, "Whoa, the only other person I've seen do that is my mother," right, or something like that. I thought the joke there is men want to date their mother, women want to date their father. I thought that was the joke. Like, oh, isn't this like a romanticized beat of like, oh, this is why he sees her for who she is, like, oh, like I love her as a woman, or is the joke supposed to be phallic?
I thought the joke was his mom was a whore.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
That's what I was trying to politely say.
I don't know. Because watching the scene, the CGI is a little
Ropey.
it's a little botched. Like if they had done it a little differently, then yeah, it would have been clearly like, oh, like oh, you know what he's thinking, But instead, it's Chris Farley, and it just feels like, oh, he loves a woman who loves food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking of Adam Sandler's character from The Waterboy and his weird relationship with his mother. That it would not surprise me if Chris Farley's character, who is hammed up as childlike, of whoa, like my mom, like you're right. It could is it sexual because she doesn't chew the hot dog? It's like a one swallow and done. Absolutely. Is it a food joke because Chris Farley's a big guy? It could land that way too. Is it just fucking weird?
This is what happens when you give Dan Aykroyd, like, listen, we're not going to ask too many questions. We need this movie out next summer. What are you going to make? Don't worry, I've got it all under control. You get Chris Farley going, whoa, I've never seen a woman eat a sandwich like that. That's my mom. I don't know. I wonder who you could even ask. Like, what's the joke here? Someone please explain it to me.
I think that makes it kind of a good dumb effect, but it kind of works for like a 6-year-old. It kind of works for a teenager, and it works for an adult to be like, whatever. You're like, okay, that's a bit much for pushing PG-13, but really, or again, it could be like, oh, I bet his mom eats food too because he's big. Like, yep, that's exactly good work, kid.
Yeah,
Apparently Subway had a tie-in with Coneheads in 1993.
That's funny. They sell cone-shaped buns.
They had collector cups, and they had a mass quantities deal.
nice. Know what I'm getting you for Christmas.
And the CG in the commercial looks better than the movie. Someone does the exact joke. They eat a Subway sub in like 2 bites.
Some Kevin James in 1993 saw the effect and was like, that sucks. I can do better than that. Yeah. The Frank Zappa song also has like a head joke, like, giving me a cone head. Like, don't. It's so stupid. It's everything I hate about Frank Zappa.
He was on Miami Vice.
Oh, yeah.
He brought up the Coneheads.
He makes a joke about like,
Joking.
don't let your head poke me in the eye or something like that.
Well,
and then there's like a overwrought guitar solo.
Something like that. But speaking of like Miami and this movie being about immigrants, let's cut back to Michael McKean. What's he been doing?
Yes.
He's on a boat yelling at immigrants in the ocean.
Explaining.
There are no jobs for you here.
You'll be a drag in our economy. We appreciate the situation you're in, but we got problems of our own.
It's like a Mike Judge bit. Like, it's so Hank Hill, perfunctory dialogue. It's so funny. And he's been demoted, clearly.
No, he hasn't been demoted yet. He's still on the trail of it. He's just doing the rest of his job in the meantime, I think. And that, I think, is his job. Because then David Spade shows up and goes, hey, we got a beat. And by the way, I think we forgot to mention Michael McKean and David Spade have a good assumption that they are aliens. The Coneheads are aliens.
They're the only people that kind of see through it,
Yes.
other than Tom Arnold.
And so they have one of the symbols that came on the robes that Beldar was wearing when they landed, which he is now using as the logo for his driving instruction company.
Yep.
And
Good
that's how they sort of
screenwriting.
Yeah.
So that's how they kind of lead back to how they refine the Coneheads later in the movie, who are now under the name the Coneheads also.
So yeah, they do a sting operation on them. They pretend to be Jehovah's Witnesses,
Oh, this is my favorite scene in the movie.
and they let them in.
It's Halloween, so the Coneheads are in fact dressed as.
Abraham Lincoln
With the hat, the tall hat,
and lipstick.
which is later revealed to be painted on her head.
Yes.
It's not a. It looks like it's like a cap over her head, but she's wiping it off.
It's
later
so
in the
funny. Stacey and I said those are our Halloween costumes next year. I love this scene. I feel like it really gets to the most. What's the word? Not expressive, but when you have imagery that represents the theme of the movie, not symbolism, just expressionistic.
Iconography.
Expressionistic, maybe. But having Beldar in an Abraham Lincoln costume sitting across from an immigration officer is saying like, yes, we are Americans.
With it being Halloween, it's the one day of the year they can get away with being overtly. They weren't planning on being in costume or concealing their cone heads. They just happen to be that. Any other day, November 1st, fucking Coneheads.
There's so many movies where like a monster or a creature like is able to blend in because they go to a costume party.
Yeah.
Yep.
In this, it's
in
the
this scene, it's kind of like that.
Oh, I love the way Jane Curtin, by the way, they can always point out when the feds are on them. Like, it's not like they're like duped at any point. Like, they know they're the feds. And I love the way Jane Curtin always goes, Mibs, for Men in Black.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought they were I don't. I think they were just saying Mebs, which is like one of their go-to.
Oh, I
expressions.
always just assumed she was saying Mibs. And I'm
No,
like,
the
that's
Men in
clever.
Black were not in the. I mean, Dan Aykroyd knew about the Men.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no shit. I love the reason I love this scene so much is Jane Curtin gets to be hysterical in it. She gets to do the best delivery of "We are from France," like the cadence of it. She's kind of wall-eyed, looking off, like it's perfect framing of her. It's the beat where McKean tries to catch Aykroyd off guard, and he just starts speaking French to him. It's like the most dramatic dolly move of the movie. Like you don't see it coming. Like it's McKean's head movements. He goes from looking over at Spade to looking Aykroyd right in the eye, and he starts speaking perfect French. You haven't heard any French the whole movie. You kind of don't see it coming that he's going to do it. You don't know this is in his skill set. But it's McKean knows how to mug a lot in this movie and not go full Jim Varney with it. But there's something about the dolly in and McKean turning his chin at the exact same moment. And
with
then
his master stroke.
and then doing the 180 to Aykroyd staring. And there's just enough of a pause before Beldar speaks in perfect French with a Coneheadian, what'd you call it?
Accent or affectation?
He's got there's not quite a French accent, but accents are important in French vernacular.
Je m'appelle, comment ça va? Et tu?
It's great. I don't know. I really, that moment really drew me in. It kind of like got
for
me
a
back.
line like "We are from France" with no attempt at a French accent ever, as being a recurring joke from the skits. You really don't see this coming. That like, by the way, we've been pretending to be human for decades. We have like, if we throw that line out there, I am ready for a follow-up question, and you really wouldn't think they would be, because they haven't been ready for any subtlety ever.
I don't know. It's just such a funny confluence of ingredients, like the two Coneheads in Halloween costumes, entertaining the feds as if they are
Jehovah's Witnesses.
it says speaking French, like the camera operator, the DP framing in the entire Abe Lincoln hat in very choice moments. It's great visual comedy.
It's the big one-on-one confrontation,
and
this is it.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say I'm not going to be an old man here and say we need more comedy movies like this. I'm going to say I'm so appreciative that I got to rediscover this movie at this age because of scenes like that. Like this is the kind of thing I whine about. Like we need more comedy movies that do this, and then I just kind of rediscovered this one. And I'm glad to have it. I'm glad to have 90 minutes of this crap, because I'm never going to get it again. I can't foresee, comedy films just don't get made that often anymore. Right. And I don't know. Do you think you're going to get like Will Ferrell doing a movie he's not he's kind of passe now. Right. Like Ryan Reynolds isn't going to do a Coneheads.
You had that Jennifer Lawrence movie where she kind of sort of raped Matthew Broderick's son in that movie that came out earlier this year.
No Hard Feelings.
Yeah, that was it.
First half is okay. Then like the second half, it just doesn't have anywhere to go. That's not going to be too weird.
Yeah.
You know,
But like that was the only thing that came out this year that was just like comedy.
R-rated comedy.
Yeah,
too,
R-rated
which
comedy.
I didn't see.
yeah. It's the funniest thing about that movie is that she just needs to make like $5,000. It's not that much money, and that's the entire like thrust of the plot. I thought that was very relatable.
Yeah, but like this type of like PG. Is this PG-13 or PG?
I think this is PG.
PG. Yeah, like a PG comedy that's actually good and like has something for everyone.
The director's doing a lot of work. The camera operators are doing work. The costume designs are good. The effects, there's so many different approaches to visual effects in this movie. The fact that they keep figuring out new ways to show the Coneheads on screen. Like, you know, when Beldar is the taxi cab driver and he's got, is it a bandana?
A turban.
It is a turban.
Yep.
That's like a good sight gag because he's just assimilating like.
Yeah, because you think the joke there is like, racism, ha ha ha, he's wearing a turban. It's like, no, he's living underneath his boss, who is a taxi driver and does wear a turban. And so he just thinks, oh, that's just what I have to do.
That's what I do.
Because I'm an alien, and that's what I think.
He doesn't make any changes to his vernacular. He doesn't like do anything else. He just wears that because this is how I fit in here.
Yep, he doesn't use makeup to darken his skin or put a dot in his forehead. He's literally just hiding his cone, sort of, but
it still pokes out at the top.
Not even intentional. You're right. I think it is. This is what cab drivers wear. That's it.
Now, all right. So they get a call from their
Phil Hartman.
From Phil Hartman,
Not the big giant head. I really like their space phone system.
Me too.
You put your whole face in this mask.
It's like a
super FaceTime thing.
Yeah, wicked wide angle lens, and they know Phil Hartman. You kind of associate him in this movie with that device. You know, like you get a lot of the. Anyways, you were saying. Sorry.
I don't think I even realized it was him as a kid, and I love Phil Hartman. And he has one of like the big deleted scenes in this movie. Has a lot more Phil Hartman in it.
Yeah.
Without that scene, I felt like this is kind of a waste of Phil Hartman.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. But anyway, like they're sending the rescue squad to come get them, and so the Coneheads are freaking out.
But tonight's when they're giving out the trophy at the golf course.
Exactly. That's
it's
the
prom.
problem.
I think. No.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's junior prom. It's the country club Halloween party, which is also the award ceremony for best golfer improved.
And the feds are coming, and the aliens are coming.
Yep, busy Halloween.
It's a hell of a Thursday.
Yeah.
So this, I wonder, for the team, do we think that the Remulakians, the Coneheads, do we think that the Coneheads Central on their home planet of Remulak, have like sent a ship like 4 years ago and we're just telling you now that it's arriving right now? Or do they just, we could have come anytime. It would take us an hour.
It's the latter. It's
Yep,
got it.
I think it's like,
once you meet Dave Thomas as like the high master, I think.
yeah, this is not a competent society.
The society is shit.
It's like, oh, we could have come at any time.
They
We
hit
just
the
don't
moon on
care.
the way out.
They hit the moon on the way out.
Oh man, it's got some proto Mars attack stuff going on. Only they can speak in complete sentences.
And, when we get to this delightful party where Dan Aykroyd wins the trophy, I just love this like almost Madonna. Like I don't even know what you'd compare it to. It's so ridiculous. They might as well be playing like Prince's song "Party Man" at this point. Yeah, it's so ridiculous, and his face lighting up puts a smile on my face.
It's so wonderful. Like I sent Dan a GIF of that. GIF, right?
GIF.
GIF.
It's apparently GIF, right?
Like the
say
J,
GIF.
not
The creator says it's GIF.
That's
which
nice.
Is
That's not how
bullshit.
language works.
Yeah. But I sent Dan an animation of that exact shot where like the spotlight hits Beldar in his Abe Lincoln costume in a sea of people because he's won the most improved golfer.
not the best golfer, not like the lowest golf score, the best improved. Which good for you.
And I said to Dan, and Dan wrote back like I was just. What did you say? Like I took a note about that shot. Like,
Yeah, no, I took a note about because
This is a weird scene because
it's cut down a lot.
yeah, it's cut down. It cuts to him like dancing. He doesn't have his hat anymore. He's kind of
It's supposed to be a
spinning around.
dance scene, and they just
Yeah.
like kind of fast forward through it. Yeah.
But yeah, I assume there was some like weird, like physics stuff that he does or whatever.
they set up this scene, and they do set up his reaction too, because like Jason Alexander is with him at the bar. One first convincing him like, if you need a toupee guy, I can help you out. But he's doing it like in like double not double like sexual double entendres, but like entendres like to not say the word wig.
Yeah. He's trying to be very polite about like his insecurity. He's bald, but he doesn't want to talk about it.
Yes, which is really him just projecting his own.
Yeah, this might surprise you, but this isn't my own hair.
That's it.
Yeah.
And they're looking at the trophy, and he's telling like, I think you're going to win it, Beldar. And like Dan Aykroyd is like, I have no interest in winning this award. Like if I were to win, and it is most likely, I will just not react at all. Like he's saying like, I don't care about this. This is an Earth thing. I don't want it. And it's him again, himself projecting that he doesn't want to fit in, but he really does. And when he gets the award, still not surprised, though, he's very happy. He's very exuberant, and that's why he kind of goes into his like, ha, me? Oh, no. He doesn't say words. It's all
the edit's smart
physical.
because they probably realize like the comedy of this beat peaks with that expression on his face. You got to just look it up. Just look up Coneheads trophy scene. You'll know the shot when you see it.
It is funny.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, like, the INS guys are on his tail at the party, right? I kind of started to lose the plot at this point. Then what happens?
They're trailing him because they want to figure out
trailing
where
him,
he's
yeah.
currently living or something.
Well, they
Aykroyd
know,
goes
though.
to
They were at his house.
Yeah.
Aykroyd goes to Connie and like, by the way, like we're leaving tonight. So go break up with Chris Farley. And it's not the prom, by the way. It's the costume party. The prom's like the stinger.
Oh, okay.
And she's like, I don't want to go. He goes, you have to. Like, I'm your father. Listen to me. And so like she tries to run
Speaking
away.
low tones.
Yes. So she runs away with Chris Farley back to the house to lose her cone virginity. Where they all go back to the house, which includes Michael McKean, David Spade, the feds.
And mom and dad's sex toys they keep under the bed.
Yes. Where'd you find that under the bed?
The sensor rings.
And so
Senso rings.
the feds have them surrounded. They're like, give it up, Conehead. Like, McKean has rehearsed this speech. Like, he's ready to nail him, complete his job, and then get his promotion finally after all these years. And then they send Chris Farley out in, I call it the cone cycle.
Yes.
Because they have, like, Conehead motorcycle helmets as a decoy.
Yeah, with a bumper sticker on the back that says "Helmet laws suck."
Yeah. Yes, it does.
I could see a cone-headed person not appreciating having to wear.
I can see Ralph Nader not appreciating.
Keep your hands off my cone.
Don't tread on me.
So they capture Chris Farley. Like, he gets maybe 50 yards down the road. He doesn't, like, lead them away for the Coneheads to escape. The Coneheads then go through the garage door. They do a quick turn. I thought because he had been a driver, he'd been a driving instructor, they could do into a chase, similar to Blues Brothers. He does, like, one turn, gets right back cut in the cul-de-sac, and they go, well, that's it.
Yeah.
We got you, Conehead.
That's even a line. We got you, Conehead. Dan Aykroyd's like an actual stunt driver too, so like I was kind of expecting more of it, but it's kind of like, I wouldn't say funny, but like, they're trapped like rats. They're done. Yeah.
Until the Remulacs show up.
Yeah.
Right
And-
above them, there's
right-
a beam from above.
Right out of Close Encounters.
It's a pretty cool flying saucer.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very cool looking.
I think the direction here is great. I love McKean waving his badge. He's actually imposing. It's scary. You see this like innocent family about to be imprisoned or worse.
Yep.
For just
Sent back to France.
Yes. Sent back to France.
Well, that doesn't that come up in an earlier scene where they're like, they kind of get the idea that they're aliens. Like, shouldn't we like call the Air Force? Like, look, when they're in the sky, sure, that's the Air Force, but when they start trying to work here, it's my job.
You really needed an actor as good as Michael McKean to make this work. I feel like I've seen so many crappy comedy movies that would do stuff like this, but the actors are just going through the motions, like saying lines and it not leaving an impression. But
Yeah.
no, McKean makes a lot of this movie.
I'm reminded of Sam Neill in Memoirs of
The
the
Invisible
Invisible Man.
Man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
similar kind of.
It's not easy to. It's not easy when you're a freak.
And so he grabs onto the bumper of their car, like the
Michael
metaphorical,
McKean, yeah.
yes, like the metaphorical dog. If he caught a car, he wouldn't even know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And then David Spade grabs onto his leg like the sycophant he's been the whole time. It's
they
a
get
funny image.
Tractor beamed up into the
Yep, they're up in it.
spaceship,
I
and
don't know what you were thinking would happen.
Baldar's making the funniest damn face. He's so happy. And this is where Connie yells out the window to Chris Farley that she loves him. And it cuts to Chris Farley in the back of a police car, handcuffed, and he leans out the window and just screams in that very boisterous Chris Farley way that only he could do, like, I love you. And then a Fed just shoves his head back in the car.
Shut up, asshole.
Shut up, asshole. I don't know. That's a great beat. Might have been a joke they came up with in post. Like, just call him an asshole. It makes the scene funnier because he's braying like an idiot. And then we get to go to Remulac.
Oh my god, it's so cool.
It's cool.
There's real grandeur here, and yes, it's not Randy Newman, it's a lesser Newman. But here's where the
David
score.
Newman.
Thank you, David Newman.
His name is David, not Lesser. it's Lesser. Newman.
David the Lesser Newman.
Lesser Newman. They make you kind of in awe that for 1993 CGI. This is where the money went. They did a good job of world building.
There's like one CGI shot where you really, it's like the one real CGI shot of the planet, and it's got limited color. Like, I don't know if there was like a render issue on top of the limitations of time that they had. Like, listen, this movie's coming out quick. You don't have a lot of cash. Jurassic Park's taking up all the render farms in Hollywood. Like, what are you going to do? But a lot of it is like matte paintings and just like cool basic optical effects. And the wonder, I think, is a combination of, to your point, Ryan, David Newman's music and Aykroyd's literal, like, glazed over, like, Remulac, like he's so happy to be home. It's been almost 20 years.
Yeah.
He sells it. He sells like, this is wonderful. Without that performance, it wouldn't. It fools you into thinking it's like a Spielberg movie for that one beat. It's
yeah.
for
Well,
an
yeah. I mean,
SNL movie.
Dan Aykroyd in real life, I think, would cream his jeans to see an alien planet.
I thought there'd be a nice quote on the screen while they're showing Remulac in full, like, this is what Dan Aykroyd actually believes.
Yeah, yeah.
I just think about this. Like, SNL movies at the time were like
Wayne's World.
We're in between
We're
Wayne-
not this.
we're in between Wayne's World and like Night at the Roxbury, and so this swings for the fences with that stuff. Like, it wants the grandeur, you know.
And I will
But
say
only in
for-
the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
for all the great, side parts, little roles, a million cameos. This is the first part of the movie where we get tons and tons of extras, all moving as Coneheads.
Oh my god.
Which meant they had to train them to some capacity. Which meant you had to take time to get this many people costumed and coned and ready.
It's really funny to
coned
look at
and ready.
like the crowd scenes and just like pick one person and just watch their cone performance.
No, you're right.
But yeah, this is where they link back up with Phil Hartman and Lorraine Newman, right?
Yeah.
Is that her name? Yeah. And they have a big deleted scene, which you should check out because it's got they're eating a bunch of green shit. It's all over their mouths, and this would have aired on TV, I think.
Yeah.
But you do get some good Phil Hartman just acting like they're alien chauvinists, I guess. You kind of realize that, the high and mighty Remulac is like not a good place.
Yeah.
These people are racist against Earthlings, to the point where Beldar kind of comes to Earthlings' defense. Like there's a line where Phil Hartman says, like, "Is it true that the
blunt skulls.
the blunt skulls reproduce copiously so that they may eat their firstborns?" And it's really nice because Remulac says, like, no, they actually have quite a deep affection for their offspring, just as we do. And then Phil Hartman makes fun of him and says, like, "Do I smell an Earthling? No, it is Remulac."
It is Beldar.
Or, sorry, yeah, Beldar.
Beldar's such a fun fucking
Beldar, Remulac. I love the alien words in this
Yep.
movie.
Let's see. Phil Hartman plays Marlax,
Marlax.
and Dave Thomas plays High Master. Very like Monty Python vibes here with him, like that the level of just like ego and unfettered, uninterrupted accomplishment in his life. He hasn't done shit. He just sits around barking stupid orders. It's clearly the same 2 orders over and over again. He expects to be flourished with gifts from Earth that the Conehead family will provide.
Well, we've
him.
spent 20 years abandoning you. Clearly, you spent the whole time getting things for us, right?
But no, he
Right?
just has stuff that was in his car.
Yeah, Beldar and Primat just have shit from
A
the
tire
car.
iron.
It's
tire
kind of funny.
iron.
You gave me a Christmas present today, and one of the things was a air freshener.
Yeah.
They also give them Michael McKean and David Spade as like the human slaves,
Yeah.
and they're dressed with collars, which I think Neil, you had called back earlier
Yep.
about the collar
It took
scene.
me until today to realize that. But
good
like,
shit.
oh,
It's
yeah,
comeuppance.
They
Yeah,
make
it's-
Michael McKean do a backflip. It's good shit.
It's kind of a cool torture, actually.
Well, I love it because Michael McKean gets presented as like an Earth slave for the Remulak High Master.
Yep.
And Michael McKean's still not getting it. The whole dog catching car, not knowing what to do. He's still acting like he has the upper hand here. He's
Yeah.
like, oh, the United States government will frown upon this and da 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 da.
No, it's like the U.S. government is not responsible for the galaxy's employment problems because, again, in his mind, the Coneheads came to Earth to get a job.
He's still not
he's-
getting
yeah,
it. He's still.
He has one mode. It's great. I don't want to forget to mention that the design of the High Master's like chamber area includes like several other Conehead Remulakians who are like
Real quick, none of us have got this down.
Nope.
I think I called them Coneheadians.
And we're not gonna.
Anyways,
They're-
but
they're-
okay, the
You're
High
talking about-
Master,
you're
there's
talking
some
about
members
Cirque
of
du
the members of the royal like
the High
elders or
Master's
something.
court or whatever.
Yeah, who are just like built into these tapestries and they just like are lowered down from the ceiling every once
Oh,
in
what's
a
that
while.
called? What's that called?
Like a Cirque du Soleil type of.
Yeah, Pink does it. The singer. It's,
Yes.
It's Oh my God, Stacy. What's that kind of dancing people do where they're in like silk?
Trapeze sheets.
Yeah, like hanging from the ceiling and they're like dancing in them.
Oh, Cirque du Soleil?
Yeah, but like shit.
The audience knows what we're talking about. Yeah.
It's a form of air acrobatics and what
They're
have
kind
you.
of doing that, but
It's done
no.
effortlessly.
It's not acrobatic. I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea here. They're literally just like the council elders, but because they're like higher status, they have to live up on the ceiling and get lowered down.
They're just kind
Like,
of flailing in the sheets.
It's just so ostentatious. Like these are like, I don't know. It's like trying to build up this mystique, but you know how stupid the whole thing is.
It's very Invader Zim, the tallest.
Yeah, the tall
Totally,
ones. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so good and pulpy, and it's
Dave Thomas from SCTV.
and from Rat Race.
And other things.
and other things. As the High Master, his cone has a little kink in the tip, which always really bothered me as a kid. It's deliberate, but it's like he's so old, his cone is like bent a little bit at the end.
The makeup people on this must have had a fucking like
Was it meant to be that he was old, or was that like he was dropped on his cone and he's the royal guy, and that's why he's a little bit like off?
I don't know. He's got like liver spots and stuff.
I love his crowd that like is like be halfway up the head. Like it's like, the design of some of these other Remulakites, there's some crazy makeup diversity here, especially in the scene where we see the next big scene, like the gladiatorial scene, where if you just like pause and look around, there's like dozens of people in this makeup and it's all over the place. Like it's not just the exact same, like, okay, you get a cone, you get a cone, you get a cone. Like the makeup artists do like, okay, you're like an older Conehead, you're a younger Conehead, you have like a tattoo, you have like like liver spots, you like, I don't know, it's like
It's good.
It's so well
watch
considered.
The old skits, like the Coneheads are just wearing these like really cheap silver cowls over their clothes.
it's very
and that's it.
Krypton. It's very
Yeah.
Marlon Brando Krypton.
But
Yeah.
it's like,
Cheap.
it's dog shit. Like, but the costumes in this movie are pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like they look great.
So Ryan, what does the High Master think of his gifts? What do they include? Beldar provides him a tire iron.
A tire iron, the user's manual to a Ford Lincoln Mercury Sable, some chewing gum.
Oh, which by the way, this is,
Is
a
it-
running
Yep.
gag. It's just a condom.
He's just chewing on blowing it up like a balloon. Like it's a dumb joke, but it lands.
Is it the
It
first movie
lands.
that does this?
I think so.
Sure.
It's got to be, right?
Any of you ever done this?
Film
Shoot a condom?
precedent.
I can remember as a kid not getting that joke.
I remember not getting it either.
yeah, just like, oh,
hard-
that
absolutely.
That gum looks weird.
Dan Aykroyd playing to his roots of, I'm just going to say a bunch of technical jargon very quickly, uninterrupted.
Like an auctioneer that a crazy skill most people just cannot do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
which he's so good at.
it's such a like a fast track cheat code, like just saying stuff in that alien voice. Mercury Sable, like it's funny. It's funny. I totally, Neil, you mentioned earlier, and I think I do remember my parents talking like this. Like when I was a kid, just like saying stupid like Coneheadian stuff.
I think the Coneheads
carbonated beverages for
might
your
have
consumption.
were they like the big hit of that era of SNL?
Certainly one of them.
I remember
Like, what was a bigger skit than that?
I want to say the
Blues Brothers. Right?
Blues Brothers, the restaurant that Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd were like, no Coke, Pepsi, which was like kind of a similar gag of like, hey, we're just going to say things in a weird accent. That was a bit more, I think, racially charged, but not like of the era of the time.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I can
they're
think.
in other. Yeah,
they're in other.
I do. My mother and I once when I was a kid were playing Scrabble, and I was so frustrated. I was probably like in first grade, and I had almost every letter I needed to spell equinox, but I didn't have the last X. So I was like, I remember telling my mom, I just got to show you what I've got. And like, I was like 6, right? So I wrote out equino, right? Without the X. And my mom started laughing and she started going like equino. And to this day, my mother and I, if we think something's weird, she'll say, that's kind of equino.
That's cute.
But I think the way she said that, it was informed by the Coneheads. I'll bring it up. I'm seeing her tomorrow.
Astronauts to the moon.
Does Dan Aykroyd believe in the moon landing?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Because that one line, I'm just like, he believes in aliens, he believes in ghosts, he believes in paranormal, but like, I don't know, maybe he doesn't trust the U.S. government.
I thought the joke was how cute it was that, we got to the moon. How stupid is
that? Could be it.
So,
I could be reading too much.
Remulakians, that's pathetic.
That's like tying your shoes to the first.
Yeah.
But he gets in trouble.
Because the High Master doesn't like the gifts.
Well, no,
Until
he
he
gets in
gets-
trouble because of his teeth.
Yep.
Oh,
That's
That
the
is
heresy.
The grave sin that he has committed in this
Abomination or
this
something like
this
that.
despotic, I mean, it couldn't be further from America society that he has longed to return to.
And he was like, well, I changed my teeth to blend in and survive because you clearly could have shown up yesterday.
Marlax goes up to bat for him. This
Yes,
society
yes.
is so awful. I love how awful it is after all. Like no, you're going to see it at some point. Like, oh, it's so beautiful, and everything about it is just comes down to one, like, dipshit Caesar that only has like one coming.
No, it's great. It's like a very pulpy, very Ming the Merciless kind of shindig they got going on here. So the one sentence is like a gladiator, death where you have to fight an animal, kind of like in Star Wars.
It's a centaur beast too. It has 4 awkward. When you finally get a good wide shot of the thing, it's awesome.
It's cool. It's Phil fucking Tippett doing stop motion monster.
Yep.
Just awesome. Really cool. Me and Ming were like, ooh, when it showed up.
When the Garthok came out.
When the Garthok were like, ooh, it's one of these.
Like it's either going to be really bad CG or the coolest thing in the world because it's the early 90s.
This is what Phil Tippett was doing instead of Jurassic Park in 1993.
He worked in Jurassic Park. He was
Right.
a dinosaur wrangler.
Well, I think he probably
That's literally his title in the credits.
he probably had all this time booked out. He's like, I'm going to do the stop motion for Jurassic Park. You're what?
Well, I'll show you. Dan Aykroyd's online too.
Which, by the way, I looked it up. Coneheads opened at number 6 below Jurassic Park, right below Jurassic Park.
So wait, Phil Tippett had 2 films come out in 1993 with special effects that he had worked on, and which both include prominent cast members of Seinfeld. I've never made that connection before.
Yeah. A lot of overlap there.
Oh, what a time to be alive.
Was this like Phil Tippett's like last mainstream movie, you think? Because Howard the
maybe.
Duck was a couple years prior.
That
and-
was in mid-80s, yeah.
yeah.
I don't know.
I can't think of
I
anything.
think I want to say he did kind of transition to working in CGI to some degree. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but I think he
He
I
did.
think
He worked on Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ming pointed out the Gladiator arena looks like a cheesecake factory. I thought that was anyway, we get to see some. I remember being pretty disturbed as a kid seeing all these Conehead body parts flying all over the place.
Dan caught something I didn't notice before.
Yeah, I noted, Dan, if you will. When
This is
poor
funny,
Tim
right?
at SNL.
Yeah,
Tim
so
Meadows.
Tim Meadows is in it in a very brief scene. There's a couple other Coneheads going into this essentially death sentence against the Garthak.
No one wins.
No one wins.
You have to narfle the Garthak.
Narthar the Garthak. Yeah.
And Tim Meadows plays Athletic Cone.
Yes, he plays athletic cones. Tim Meadows is a black man. He goes out there, he fights, he goes, don't worry, I got this, I'm going to kill it. guys, dies immediately. An arm is thrown to indicate that he has been ripped to shreds. The arm is white.
Makes you wonder if they shot more of this scene with like another Conehead.
That's my guess. I'm guessing it's just a goof. It wasn't like anything else besides we filmed a couple.
How lazy could you be to it? Like
Yeah.
be on set and not be like, dude, like
Like 5 guys die before we get to Dan Aykroyd fighting the thing.
the bickering before. So Beldar's waiting with other Cone men who are now in like ceremonial warrior garb, which is like a kind of like a toga mixed with like a bathrobe.
Yeah, that's close enough.
And it's like they do nothing to obscure the fact that Dan Aykroyd is not in shape. He is like mid 40s at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
He looks as schlubby as can be, and I'm here for it. I love it because it makes him fighting the monster all the more exciting, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, he doesn't have any hair on his cone, but he has plenty of hair on his chest.
Hey, you know what? I'm cool with it. Need more of that in movies. God damn it! Like they like don't like shave everybody down. It's weird to make infantile men out of every man in a movie these days, and it you're watching an older movie when you see this shit. You know what I'm getting at? Like Dan Aykroyd being shirtless would never happen in 2024, I guess.
Unless they were poking fun at, he's shirtless and he's ugly.
Yeah,
that would be the joke.
In this, it's more like he
yeah.
just looks like he's got nothing special. He's in between other athletic cone people.
Yes.
And there's a great bit where the guards are trying to pull the next warrior to go narfle the Garthak, and they pick a guy who is clearly behind Dan Aykroyd in line, and they go, you're next, and he tries to like talk his way out of it. He's like, no, clearly Beldar is next in line, and Beldar's like, no, you may go first. Like, it's just like
you were ahead of me in the sentencing chamber.
sentencing chamber.
It's almost that Beetlejuice joke of switching the number with the guy who shrinks heads.
Yep.
Of like, no, it's you're up next. Like, yeah, it can be played so many different ways, but this one lands. Not that the Beetlejuice doesn't land too.
I also love in the scene, like, Connie, this is her first time to Remulac. Like, she knows she's an alien.
Horrified.
She's horrified, but she also keeps asking questions and no one's answering. It, like, in a lesser movie, I think would have been like, oh, yes, there's this and this. They would have done some lore explanation. She's like, what's the Garthak? And, like, Phil Hartman's character is like, it's hungry tonight or something like that.
It's the perfect vehicle
Yeah.
for exposition, and rather it's more character-based writing.
Yeah.
It's like her asking in horror, and everyone else is just drooling with excitement. Like
Even her mother is not like, what
This is
happened?
also, by the way, this is like a celestial event where all 3 of their moons line up in the sky, and you realize like the logo on his robes that was like a plot point earlier is the moons.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a big cool review.
The majesty of this is you get to watch other Conehead people get eaten by a monster. I love that. Like, what is a Garthok? And someone says, these are great seats.
Yeah, it's great.
Just quoting the movie like beat for beat. It's fun. It's I don't know. Like I keep going back to, I wonder if younger people would find this just quaint. Right, it's got to be quaint to people who are like under 20.
I would love to be a fly on the wall or just to be in an audience of folks who never saw this to go, oh, the thing he learned on Earth, golfing, is the skill that ended up saving his ass when no one else has ever narfled the Garthak.
Now, as a kid, earlier in the movie they show the teenage girls being driven by Beldar. How could I forget a name like that?
The teenage girls, by the way, I don't know if we said it on mic.
Yep.
We did.
We did.
Say it again.
They're-
Say it
they're-
again.
The 3 girls. Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
the 3
Parker
girls
Posey.
from
Dazed and Confused.
Dazed and Confused. Yeah.
But they're listening to Soft Cell's version of Tainted Love on the radio. It gets a nice prominent, needle drop in there. And that song gets reprised by Beldar while he's like trying to fight the monster, like he's buying time or something.
Yeah.
He starts singing it and everyone hears it, and it's like kind of an odd moment because you feel like, oh, this song is going to rescue him somehow, but it's not. It's just a callback to a song that showed up earlier, and it kind of doesn't mean anything. But as a kid, like that moment felt like, oh, it all comes full circle. Like this is the theme song of the movie.
I think it's supposed to underline the golf thing. But yeah, I agree. It's not like he's using it to like distract the Garthok. He doesn't
it gives him away, if anything.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it's supposed to be, but like for some reason they do the action of him building the golf club as he's singing it. Right? Like I would have,
I love when they cut to like David Spade though in this. He's kind of like the explaining what the song is like.
Very popular.
Very popular on Earth. He's trying to like schmooze still.
The sync of the cadence of Aykroyd's voice in that scene, plus that song being a very stilted. perfect song choice. Like you couldn't do that with any other. Like that, it's the right song.
It's funny because it's not a 90s song. It's an early 80s song that kind of like, I wonder if it charted because, no, it didn't chart because of this movie, but.
Was it on the soundtrack?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Which they repressed recently, like in 2019.
What?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, they put it out on vinyl for the first time.
Was it Mondo or something?
I don't know.
Okay. There's like 3 companies that are doing that these days.
Dan Aykroyd, if he ever wanted to do like a charity album for something, he could just like take a bunch of like cheap cover songs and just do them as Beldar, and I'd pay for that shit.
Oh, hell yeah.
The hits with Beldar.
Yeah.
Conehead Christmas. Conehead Christmas.
Conehead Christmas, and none of the songs are about Christmas. It's like Thunder Road, Purple Rain. So he kills the monster
Oh, yeah. He
he
shoots
narrows
a
that
rock
guard
down
down.
its throat.
using golf techniques.
Yep.
Monster has a cool like red POV too.
Yeah.
And like there's like at one point where like it shows its POV while he's like holding the stick in its mouth.
Yeah.
It looks like
That's
he's
cool.
holding a like a GoPro on a stick or something.
Oh, yeah.
I really like Dan Aykroyd like lining up the shot in the close up of his eyes to show like I'm gonna. It's a cool shot
It
of like
punches in,
yeah.
yeah.
He's like no, like this might be the most serious this film ever gets.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna own it. I'm gonna make it work.
Yeah, the movie has just enough vegetables in terms of all the immigration parable, like the American Dream stuff, and it also has just enough sci-fi majesty for my palate. Like, okay, cool. Like he's being resourceful. Hey, look how cool this planet looks. This music rocks. Like there's just enough gravity to the movie. Like it's, there's no ironic detachment to it. Like it's an ironically detached movie would never bother to have the spectacle in this last act. I think, a Ryan Reynolds movie would not do this,
Yeah, so he kills the Garthak, and that gives him the ability to go up to the High Master Remulkin. And he gets that allows him a wish. And,
One twisted metal.
yes. And he's like, hey, I want to go back to Earth and conquer it for Remulak, and also though I want to take back and he very much specifies the high-ranking Blunt Skull, which is Michael McKean.
He says, I want to bring back the Earth slaves. And they go, you may take one. Great. I will take the higher rank.
And then Michael McKean just leans into shot, just goes, thanks. Big thumbs up.
In case you're worried about David Spade,
Don't be.
don't be. He's gonna fit right in. He's already like trying to be like
His sycophantry will help him.
he's
the High
gonna be the
Master.
yes man. Yeah,
His ass kissing translates straight to those crackless nippled asses.
That's the name of this episode.
crackless nippled asses. Now, why don't we just call it the Conehead movie?
A Conehead Christmas. That's the album, actually. Yeah.
Which we never bring up Christmas.
So Dan Aykroyd in his new Cone war vessel has his family. He has
Whole armada.
and a whole armada behind him. Has his family. Has Michael McKean. He goes to Earth. He goes, I'm gonna go down first and like scope things out. And he preps the ship for destruction because he's pulling a little fast one on them. He's going to take Connie home because Connie doesn't want an Earth-ruled planet. She wants to just be with Chris Farley. She wants to be a normal American girl.
Yeah.
So he leaves a quick transmission like, oh no, the Blunt Skulls have lasers and stuff.
Danger, abort immediately, or
Yes,
something
danger.
like that.
Flee, retreat. And so
They play it like Earth has like Star Wars weapons.
Yes. So he then blows up the thing.
Turbo lasers.
He
I mean,
has,
like Reagan era.
No,
shit
but
like
that's
The Death Star,
That's
yeah.
like literally a weapon. in
Deploy
Star
the
Wars.
turbo racers.
Ryan-
No, I mean like the Star Wars program.
Oh, I know what you
yeah.
mean, but I was just Ryan and I remember seeing episode 7 in theaters, and
Turbo
I'm
lasers, yes.
for those who don't know, I'm not a big Star Wars guy, and
When Ron Weasley's older brother, Huxley, when the redhead
Hux,
just
yeah.
says, deploy the turbo lasers.
I laughed out loud in the theater amongst a sea of men who did not think that was funny.
It is funny and it's supposed to be
It's
funny.
fucking stupid.
They're
Get
not
over
just
it.
lasers. They're turbo lasers. Much bigger.
much faster.
Yeah, faster force, faster,
Faster than
turbo.
light, yeah.
Yeah, but
Shame on me.
It is.
they,
Anyways.
they play this for tension. Like you don't know whether or not he's gonna really try to conquer the Earth.
Is Beldar gonna go turncoat? You know?
Yeah, so he fakes his death. The Remulak fleet leaves
Yeah,
with David Spade.
By the way, the music while they're approaching Earth,
Very
straight up Beetlejuice ripoff.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Make it sound more like the temp track, one of those situations.
Right. And then he turns to Connie and he's just like, look at, it's not about my happiness or, it's not about Remulac, but how many times can a father say he's given his daughter the world?
It's great. It's a great ending.
It is.
It's really good.
Yeah, I put your happiness above all else. What kind of a father would I be?
He releases Michael McKean, but like he gives him a life bargain, which is just like leave
Green
us
card.
Yeah, you give us a green card, leave us alone. And but Michael McKean like still won't give it up. He's still like, okay, but you must like. What does he say? I forget. It's something like he's still like nitpicking.
I forget what the bargain is.
Don't you still owe back taxes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
can
probably
control your. I could probably blow your head off your neck. Oh, yeah, I could probably do that with this space slave collar thing. That like, yeah, I mean, like you have no cards here. Why do you have no? Yeah, why are you still like speaking from? And also, you're like in your boxer shorts and your long stupid socks.
And then we cut to a couple months later. It's junior prom night. Chris Farley shows up in that like classic baby blue tux that no one ever actually wears. Picks up Connie, and then they ride off to prom after he gets a nice dose of radiation from
some bizarrely like
Beldar says like, "May I have 55 words with you?" Did anyone count the words?
No, but that is
52.
You did?
No, I've watched a video where it's proven that's the exact amount.
He
It's
said 55.
55, whatever it is.
Oh.
Like, it's just the exact amount.
I thought you were like saying like, no, he falls short.
But it is, like I was saying, the lack of learning. There's a learning curve which actually succeeds in terms of recognizing personal space. But this is the first time he almost speaks like a human being, of acknowledging like, perhaps you should take my car, which is statistically safer and better designed than that rusted piece of shit you drive. And it's like,
that got me.
That's the beauty of the joke, because he says exactly how many words he will say. And like he's doing like a Dan Aykroyd like bassomatic like spiel with like controlled camera movements and everything, and then he ends it on ... shitbox. Like that's like the last
absolute
word.
shitbox, rusted out shitbox you drive. Like as long as you're driving my daughter, like an actual father.
Yeah, that's what you should
If
do.
if you're driving my daughter, which I don't like, but here we are.
Yeah.
I'm acknowledging. I'm not one of those weird dads that like stands there with a gun at the door. But
You did
take us-
literally like make it physical advances to my daughter that made her upset.
Yeah.
It's not like just the generic conservative
nice,
American
good,
like there's more to it than that. But the fact that he meets him in the middle on it's a cute ending. Like everything's wrapped up
It is.
well.
And he takes the photo with like, it's not a normal camera. It's like a gadget camera that's got all this shit attached.
It's probably made out of like a bug zapper.
I feel like that's very Dan Aykroyd, like because he loves
Toyetic.
contraptions and stuff. Yeah. There's some nice contraptions in this movie.
I looked up the bargain Beldar makes with Seedling.
Oh yeah.
And he says, I make this proposal to you, Earth creature, your life in return for a green card. And Seedling, Michael McKean says, agreed, provided that you can demonstrate a special job skill that a U.S. citizen does not possess. And Beldar says, that should represent no challenge to me. Good, move.
And then shocks him.
So they end with Primat and Beldar looking at the prom photo.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which is also like 6 feet tall.
yeah. And it's Can't Take My Eyes Off of You, as covered by Morton Harkett from Aha.
Oh.
Yeah. Which the famous Aha Take On Me video, directed by the director of this movie.
Delightful. Yeah, in the end, everything wrapped up with a nice cone-shaped bow. The audience feels good. I feel good. Yeah, watching it again. It was fun. It was really fun going back to this one.
And we got that really nice cone-shaped font that we all talked about before we started. We didn't bring it up.
I wanted to bring it up first because it's the first thing you see in the movie before the Twin Towers, and it's thank you. And it's a great font, actually. It looks really nice. And you can download it if you want to use it in your emails.
DanAykroyd.net.
No, the font is called Beldar.
Oh, yeah?
Is it?
That's appropriate.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on DeviantArt.
That'll die.
I'm not joking. That's exactly right.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, we'll use that for, new year, new us. Every guaranteed video thumbnail from here on out, we'll use the Beldar.
It is from France.
Yeah, it wraps up. What do you think if there had been a sequel, what do you think the plot would have been?
I mean, if this movie was like a huge hit and they had to make one,
Mm-hmm.
they'd probably write in another star who plays like a vengeful conehead that like, I don't know, dated Primat before she met Beldar or something. Like they'd get like another SNL alum.
Dana Carvey or
Yeah,
something.
sure.
Yeah, they set that up. Like when she's talking to Connie,
Yeah,
she's like,
yeah.
"Oh, you know, I love someone before your father, but he died."
Hey,
And then
you're right.
He didn't die.
He
Then
would
he's
actually
back.
he would
Yeah.
actually invade Earth, and then
Yeah.
like Beldar would have to
all
like
right,
fight them off.
All right, bring in someone not from SNL.
From that time period.
Yeah.
Jeff Goldblum.
So it's 1995.
No,
so
no,
Jim
no.
Carrey's way too big.
Outside of SNL, Mel Gibson. 90s Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson putting on
cone.
Alien. Oh my god, that's hard. 95.
Like, who do you want to see play a conehead?
I mean, they already got Phil Hartman.
I know.
Tom Hanks. He's too good for that by 95. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's
He'd
too expensive.
He'd fucking rock at it though.
He would. He'd have a great time, but they couldn't afford him.
I don't want it, but I bet Tim Allen.
Yeah, that
He wouldn't do a great
no,
job.
No.
Who do I want to see?
Yeah,
Is
like
that-
who do you?
Steve Martin could land this.
Oh,
and
Yeah,
get it.
yeah.
Mm.
oh, what about I mean, it's
So that's within the SNL
Right.
sphere.
this is so
That's why he'd get. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right. Outside of SNL,
it's too obvious. But John Lithgow, right?
Damn.
That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Damn,
I mean,
yeah.
he did the fucking thing. It's the show.
Yeah,
It's
he's
not-
Third Rock
it's
from the
the
Sun,
same
yeah.
joke.
Yeah, it is kind of.
It's a-
It even has like the daughter dating like a big dude who's like clearly
not-
out of her.
It's
not-
really the same thing.
Yeah.
I think some people behind the scenes worked on it, and
the writers. I looked it up. There's like a husband and wife team who
Yes.
who wrote for SNL around this, like from '86 to
Yeah.
'93 or
I
something.
think they wrote the Wayne's World movie.
Probably. Yeah, they wrote a bunch of SNL movies, I think, and
ended up working on.
they
Third
ended
Rock?
up creating Third Rock
Yep.
from the Sun after this, and that '70s show.
Which is fine.
I mean, good for them. They must be rolling in.
Topher Grace is good on that show. I mean, the cast of that show
Yeah.
is good.
You know, I
The
like.
whole cast are all good people.
All of them
Yes.
of modest means. Have you seen the apology video from Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher's house?
Yeah.
They have you seen this?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have their modesty corner on their property so they can look poor if they need to.
Yeah, every celebrity has that.
Oh my god, it disgusts me. It bothers me so much.
A modesty corner is something that an alien would have, not a normal.
Listen, when you've punked as many people as Ashton Kutcher, you have to live in seclusion.
Have you seen that video? Last Ashton Kutcher thing. Have you seen that video resurfacing? It was when he used to have that dumb show Punked, and it's just a clip going around of Ashton Kutcher talking about how he can't wait for the Olsen twins to turn 18. It's like on like TV. He's literally talking about how he wants to sleep with a teenager, two teenagers.
That was a extremely
Common.
normalized.
I know,
back
but
then.
like-
yeah, I'm not defending it. I'm vomiting.
Sure. But like, my point being, it resurfaced in the same breath as, hey, apparently Ashton Kutcher wrote a letter defending Danny Masterson that he sent to a judge to try and get him off the hook for those awful things he did. And then people were trying, oh, Ashton Kutcher's not that bad. He was just defending a friend. Counterpoint. Here he is making money off of joking about how he wants to commit statutory rape.
All right. Well, listen. To go back, John Lithgow would be a great cone man.
He'd be the best. I mean, yeah. They would probably bring in some Star Trek people just for the gag of
Oh,
like
fucking! Can you imagine Patrick Stewart? Patrick Stewart. That's my pick.
Patrick Stewart as
As
like
a conehead. Yes.
the conehead with his
Yeah,
shit
he's in
together.
the Paramount House. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So get
He's on the
Patrick
mountain.
Stewart as someone. Yeah, because I can imagine him like intimidating.
Father-in-law.
Yeah,
yeah,
your
yeah.
father-in-law or father.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It would be
Yes.
father-in-law.
Father-in-law? No. I'm thinking like he's her old boyfriend, and he's like way more high status than Beldar, and Beldar's like, nah, you know.
Yeah,
He is about their age. He's not like older than Dan Aykroyd, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
He just looks it because he's bald.
He might
Yeah.
be younger than Dan Aykroyd.
He could be.
You want me to
you know,
put a
I've-
cone on my head?
All right, here's another pitch, completely different sequel. We open with we go to France, and it's just a lot like we go from Chevy Chase Vacation, we go to European they for the first act, we have a bunch of sight gags where they go to France and England and things.
Yeah.
They eat toilet paper from the other side of the aisle or something, I don't know. And then they find out, they get a distress signal that Remulac has been destroyed, and the surviving, refugees, Clark Kent, Kal-El style, and the plot becomes they need to help acclimate all these other folks, and everyone he becomes an unlikely leader.
It's Smallville
leader.
season 9, which no one's gonna get that reference, but that's the entire plot.
All right, but hear this.
Yeah.
All right, but the craft has crash landed in Africa, so the Coneheads must go to Africa. Sorry, shitty sequels always go to Africa.
But can you see that's a trailer line? We will go to France.
Yeah,
That's the first, and it goes
I
really
can easily
fast
see
into
them though
Dan.
being like, we got to still do the same government plot. Like the Americans had their chance. Now it's Interpol's job to
Hell yeah.
like catch the code.
Rowan Atkinson,
Yeah.
who is very much not French.
He looks
fuck it.
kind of French. Yeah,
Yep,
Jean
I
Reno.
bet he
You
can
know,
fake the accent.
Remember, I don't know who played him, but the Brad Bird Mission Impossible movie. They have the French constable guy that's like trying to hunt down Ethan Hunt the whole movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be that shit, which is
Yeah.
I always thought was wicked funny. Is this one of the best Dan Aykroyd movies?
I still need to see Blues Brothers.
Oh, dude.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
it's great.
Ghostbusters 1 and 2. I still haven't. It's one of the better ones. Like, how many Dan Aykroyd movies are there?
Well, it's better than Evolution. Woof.
I mean, that's barely like Dan Aykroyd.
He's
movies,
a supporting. He's a borderline cameo, if not even. Yeah, more cameo than supporting character.
You got Dr. Detroit.
I wanted to bring up Dr. Detroit. Great theme song.
Trading
by
Places.
Our boys. Trading Places. For people.
Spies
I don't
Like
that,
Us. He's got some. I mean, Dragnet.
It's funny.
Nice.
He's and yes, nothing but trouble. He's rarely a leading man. I think about Dragnet, him and Tom Hanks. Spies Like Us, him and Chevy Chase.
What's that movie where he's like wearing S&M stuff with Rosie O'Donnell?
Oh my God, it's got Dana Delaney in it. And Tom Arnold. No, him. Dan Aykroyd. You
Yeah.
said it. It's East of Eden or a playoff.
Oh
of
yeah,
that.
I think that's
Yeah.
Dan Aykroyd movies. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. That does not count. My Girl. Dragnet. Nothing But Trouble. The Great Outdoors. A lot of people like that movie.
What was Driving Miss Daisy?
Driving Miss Daisy. Oscar nominated for it. Twilight Zone
I need
the
to
movie.
watch that movie. I need to check this Dan Aykroyd Oscar-nominated performance out because wow.
Yeah, you got to get on the Dan Aykroyd good movie train.
Yeah.
Blues Brothers, that one.
Blues Brothers 2000.
Not good.
No.
I put this. I think this is. It's almost in the upper echelon in that I do think it's an acquired taste.
I
Right?
think it's top of the mid.
Yeah, it's
top
good.
of the mid is a good place to put it, and it definitely lets Dan Aykroyd out more than most roles would ever allow him to.
That's kind of the strength of the movie is like there's no point in watering Dan down that much. There's like because when you do that you end up with stuff like like Trading Places. Have you seen Trading Places?
Once, yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Have you seen it, Ryan?
Oh yeah.
It's all right. He and Eddie both have like incredibly funny beats, but it is a lot. It's edited slowly and it's kind of mean at times. And but that's like what I was afraid this was gonna be, and it wasn't. It's not. It's got style for days, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, no, this is a good illustration of like where comedy was 10 years prior, which often included Richard Pryor. But like.
It never gets uncomfortably horny the way a lot of the old comedies just do.
It gets horny, but it's more about this is what it's like for them to be horny.
Right.
Well, we're moving like the further we move away from Animal House and like that aesthetic, and like finally finding like the 90s tone to it, which is
Wayne's
I think,
World.
Wayne's World. It's the fact that there's like a bunch of like high school like youth culture stuff in this movie, and there's like Red Hot Chili Peppers on the soundtrack. It's just like
It's softer.
it's softer. It feels like something you'd rent this in like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and have a great night.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Yeah.
I stand by that damn movie.
Me too.
You'd appreciate this, Neil. Speaking of Paul Rubens, I was listening to an interview with Bill Burr yesterday, and he was talking about his film career with somebody, and they were just going like, "It's incredible. You're like part of Star Wars now. You're part of this now." And like, and Bill Burr goes, "You have to understand, it's right place, right time. I'm not a real actor, and every time I'm on set and I'm looking around and I'm seeing these big name actors and I'm seeing Boba Fett, all I'm thinking is like paging Mr. Herman, like that."
Yeah.
He cited that as like his level of acting ability, and I thought it was very sweet that's Bill Burr's go-to reference.
That does remind me. I'll do a belated media current here, but a few weeks ago I did. I did see Pee-wee's Big Adventure in at the Somerville Theater.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And I took my daughter.
Yep.
And
I was there too.
you were there. I took you.
I was there too.
And Dan.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ryan. You weren't invited.
That's all right.
Betty came along.
Oh, yeah. And it was so fun to watch that like next to a 5-year-old who could handle it. And
she and I were laughing like idiots that
so good.
Yeah.
And she she's still like referencing things in that movie to me.
The
It
movie's
warms my heart.
it's in that same curve as like a quality Muppet movie. Like just like the casting, like you have to get actors like, listen, this isn't about you improving your demo reel. This isn't about you getting your next role. You're here to be a clown. You're here to be like a jailbird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're a living cartoon. Can you give me that?
And the special sauce has to be Phil Hartman because he wrote Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Hell yeah.
And he's in Coneheads a bunch, and
Yeah.
I feel like he was probably good friends with all these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's missed.
Oh, hell yeah.
I would say Phil Hartman is like the first celebrity death that like really bothered me. That like really bummed me out.
Princess Di did nothing.
No. She didn't.
Candle in the Wind is
she
about
didn't
her.
do a voice on The Simpsons.
People think Candle in the Wind is about her, but it's actually about doing heroin.
You've made that joke many times before.
It's a joke. It's a really good joke.
And it seems to me you lived your life like a lot of heroin. Like, yeah.
Rocket Man.
Looking through other Dan Aykroyd movies. He's not in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
He's got that tiny.
Oh.
Wait,
No, he's in
Temple of Doom.
Temple of Doom, yeah.
Sneakers,
Oh,
Crossroads.
Sneakers is good.
He's really good in Gross Point Blank too.
I never saw that.
Me neither.
but
You've
I
never
believe
seen?
you.
Oh,
No.
that's pretty good. I feel like there's some male gaze
Yeah.
stuff that dates it, but that's Minnie Driver, John Cusack. He's like Hitman, High School Reunion. Dan Aykroyd's the bad guy. It's good.
Cool.
Is
yeah.
the
It's cool.
Crossroads he's in? Is he Britney Spears' father?
No,
Is it
boyfriend.
that?
Yeah, father. Yeah,
But is it that Crossroads, the Britney Spears one?
yeah. I've never
Crazy.
saw it, but yeah, I
You
know.
stay away from those crossroads, Brittany.
I'm warning you.
I think you'd like Sneakers. You got to watch Sneakers.
I do gotta watch Sneakers. Yeah. I can't believe you. Not to. I hate it when people do this, but I can't believe you've never seen Blues Brothers.
I know.
It's great. I saw it for the first
It's
time
just,
in college.
one of those. It's like a long movie, right?
It can be.
It's. I mean, it's dry. Let's see, 2 hours. It's probably.
I love it.
I love Blues
Yeah,
Brothers.
I grew up with that movie.
Great musical cameos. Great.
Yeah.
That honestly don't slow it down.
Speaking of Dan Aykroyd doing music, one final thing we have to talk about relevant to the movie is
Oh Jesus.
the what's it called?
Conehead Love.
Which is I think it's the second song that plays over the credits. A little treat for those who stayed in their seats. It's Jane Curtin and Dan Aykroyd singing in character.
About fucking.
About fucking. It's a horny Conehead song. They're singing about their senso rings and don't want to hone my cone alone. It's kind of
That's all it's got going on.
Stick-
You've heard the song.
yeah. Stick to the blues, Dan.
It made me think of Pink Floyd. Hey, teacher, leave my cone alone.
It does sound
it's
like that.
bad.
Yeah, it's the same melody.
All I am is just another cone in the wall.
Look this up. It looks like there was like a special in 1993 that MTV aired. Where
Maybe, or
Bale
they
Beldar
just-
and Primat were talking about music they like. That's
I
what it
could
looks.
not find the special though, so I think maybe their introduction is just baked into the music video.
Because the music video doesn't have any clips from the movie, does it? It's them in costume and everything.
No,
Yeah.
it has more clips from Star Trek.
Yeah, it
you're right.
uses effects from Star Trek because Paramount owned both, and it's the two of them. They do like 2 other music video parodies, and it's of old music videos at that point. Robert Palmer and ZZ Top.
Yep.
As
There's a-
Coneheads.
There's a great. I'm reading articles from 1993 reviews, and one was like Coneheads goes from pothead sketch to SNL kid film. Coneheads fit for parental units. It's interesting. It's interesting that that was the big concern, was like, is this going to be okay for kids? Because Wayne's World, I haven't watched it in a beat, but it feels kid friendly. Because like Wayne and Tia Carey.
Garth.
No,
Okay.
Cassandra. They never. I think they like kind of famously don't kiss in that movie, right?
I mean,
There's
it's
a scene with them in the
definitely-
bed.
Yeah, but they're not like doing anything.
No, but you see his dick through the underwear.
He's wearing like really tight
Tommy
pantyhose.
Pickles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He humps the mummy.
Yeah.
That movie, but like that is like definitely like at least in my household they let us watch it, and it's,
Same.
Yeah.
It's not as horny as Austin Powers.
But
It doesn't
it-
get that.
Or even
It is.
Coneheads.
It is interesting that the boomers of the time associated Coneheads with like the pothead 70s days and like the counterculture SNL, and it was like probably just like vexing them in the 90s to see it like go Hollywood,
Sure. Dan Aykroyd sold out.
right? But as I have no particular love for the sketch version of the Coneheads. And this is helmed by like the better SNL crew, like the writers from '86 and all like Kevin Nealon and all those folks.
Sure.
But the music video is kind of garbage, but it's like
Oh, it's garbage, yeah.
very quaint in that like everything had to have a music video era of MTV mattering.
Yep.
Sure. There's a bunch of parodies of other videos in it. And,
There's 2 parodies.
oh, there's at least 3. There's the ZZ Top one,
Robert Palmer.
Robert Palmer, Born in the USA.
Oh, right, yeah, Born
yep,
in the
you got that
USA,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the opening joke.
And he turns around and he's got the bad teeth and everybody screams.
It's funny.
It is funny.
Yeah.
Pulls his jeans down to show his nipples on his ass.
Wait, I have a button for that. I never have to say it again.
Nice.
Think
All right, can we close up shop here? Can we move on?
Yeah, let's move on to questions from patrons.
It'll be real great.
Every episode of Guaranteed Audio, we take questions from patrons over at guaranteedaudio.com or guaranteedvideo.com, whichever one's working. I guess last night, guaranteedvideo.com wasn't forwarding for like 5 minutes. I got a few people tweeting me about it.
Sorry.
I'm tech support, I guess. Anyways, yeah, so we just take questions over there, and we gave everyone over at guaranteedvideo.com a heads up that we'd be talking about Coneheads and to give us questions for the episode. And not a single question we got is about Coneheads. So I guess we got our pick of the litter. Mackenzie the Oaks asks, I've been saving this question for a while. If you could create one extremely weirdly specific pinball machine, just like those old licensed ones, what would it be? And happy holidays. Hey, happy holidays to you, Mackenzie.
Happy holidays.
We're all thinking of Conehead, a Conehead pinball, right? Right?
I mean, a little bit. So are the cones the flippers, or are they the?
The cones would be the flippers,
Oh,
but I'm
that's-
imagining the ball,
The balls.
like a cone-shaped ball. It doesn't work very well.
The
Would
sensor
you have
ring.
Chris Farley's crappy car will be part of it?
Yeah.
You can narfle the Garflack. Right?
That would- yeah,
That's
that'd
gotta
be if
be
you
like,
get like the bonus and like
Yep.
a couple 3 in a rows. The Garflack would come up.
it's oh my god, like the big middle part could be it opens up to Dan Aykroyd's like frightening 3 layers of spike teeth.
I like that.
Right?
Cool.
Yeah,
A little
tell
more
you to cap the
reserved.
teeth,
All right, a
yeah.
little more respectable. I'm thinking of a fugitive based pinball game.
Tommy Lee Jones, I
Yeah,
don't
Tommy
care.
Lee- yeah.
Okay.
They got their
okay.
license for Tommy Lee Jones, but not Harrison Ford. So the artwork on the marquee is like a silhouette of Harrison Ford with his hands up.
And the
but you
sound
get a
of-
really good look at Tommy Lee
Yeah.
Jones. I mean,
And the sound effect of "I don't care" like plays way too much.
I don't care. I don't
It's
care.
also
I-
like
I-
bit
I-
crunch to hell.
Yeah, and there's like, there's little like tunnels, like like water tunnels for the ball to go out.
the ball like gets held up at the end of the water tunnel.
There's a prosthetic arm that grabs the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see like your multiplier come up, then it releases the ball.
Yeah.
Your
All the
flipper is a
same.
one-armed man? Huh?
Yeah,
flipper's a one-armed man?
Exactly.
One arm man and like a false nose.
Little prison bus that crashes.
I haven't
Okay,
even
here-
seen this movie, and I get all these references.
I've
haven't
got
seen
an
The
idea.
Fugitive?
I still haven't seen The Fugitive. I've been trying to for years, and I can never get anyone to watch it with me.
I'll watch the Fugitive.
Here's an actual intellectual property that I don't think will ever get translated to a pinball machine unless someone wants to make it. The idea is out there for you. Crowdfund, GoFundMe, go to town. This idea is open to the world.
If you're By the way, Ryan is standing up wearing a suit blazer and gesticulating out wildly.
He's
in the
actually
air.
correct.
Shark Tank
It's
right
really
now,
good. Yeah, very Shark Tank.
Michael Douglas and Glenn Close in Fatal Attraction.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
The I Will Not Be Ignored plays when you get like the
you were
big
telling
points. The dead rabbit boiling in the pot.
Oh,
That's like a whole
Jesus.
thing in the middle.
Yeah.
Big part of it is cheating on your wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Douglas like goes to a thing in the city. They acknowledge like the weird racist relationships with the Japanese in the 80s. Michael Douglas somehow not only gets away with cheating, but gets rewarded for killing a woman. Yeah, Fatal Attraction. is exactly the type of intellectual property that no one would ever look at and go,
Well,
pinball.
They made a
Do that
TV
one
show
and
out of it.
Basic Instinct. Get that one in there too.
Ooh.
It's got the legs on crossing.
Sharon Stone's legs akimbo. That's the bottom
Yeah.
of the pillow. I could just picture someone at like Data East pitching that and going, "Well, you got a better idea."
All right, well, I'm not investing.
Man,
Okay,
we
I
are
don't
so old, by the way.
think- One came to mind that I'm like, this is the perfect pinball machine. Inspector Gadget.
Oh yeah.
Oh, good
That's-
lord.
I don't think one
fucking
exists.
obvious. Yeah.
But has it been done? I don't think it has.
Whoa, do we
I
mean
don't-
good?
I don't know if like
animated or Matthew
I'm talking about
Broderick?
animated. I'm
Okay,
not
thank
talking
God.
about,
the closest it would have come would have been the Disney live
yeah, if they did
action.
make one,
And
it would have been that.
I want to say I don't think Disney licenses pinball machines. I can't think of any.
No, I can't think of
Yeah,
any.
you're right.
But just like you put the coin in, and it's like I am always on the case, and then like the ball comes out and
Dr.
extendo
Claw.
on. Yeah, you got
Oh, that
Dr.
writes.
There's
That's
so much stuff,
fantastic.
and everything could just be whimsical and weird and extend and
That thing
propel
would
it.
suck to repair.
Yeah.
Question number 2. Elbow Davy asks, "Merry Christmas. My question is, what are the most underrated and overrated Christmas movies and specials in your opinion? Is there an overrated Christmas movie? I'm not a big fan of the Santa Claus.
You mean Tim
Tim
Allen
Allen
Santa
movie?
Claus?
Yeah. I saw it in theaters. I don't know. It's fine.
When it was new?
But
Yeah,
like,
probably.
why?
Do
There
enough
should
people care about that movie?
Dude, there's been
A
like
lot.
several sequels. There's a current
Yeah.
TV show being made as we speak.
Straight to Disney Plus, right?
Yeah, but still, that's his.
No, that's
Wow.
still big.
I didn't mind the first one, but I never thought it was like some grand.
I can name an
Masterpiece.
underrated Christmas movie.
Okay.
Ernest Saves Christmas, you motherfuckers.
You know what? Honestly, the other day, Stacy and I were like flipping through YouTube stuff, and I was watching the scene where Ernest picks up the Christmas tree off the highway.
Yeah,
It's good.
it is good.
Yeah.
But you didn't rate it high enough.
There's too many good ones.
I know, I guess. What's an overrated one?
Because most of the hits, really, it's so much Christmas content gets made every year to this day, and it's so hard for anything new to like stick to the
Yeah.
canon. Charlie Brown Christmas is not overrated. It really is good.
It opens sad. It ends sad.
The Grinch. There's a
I'm kind of tired of like Die Hard as a Christmas movie. It's like yeah.
I had a rant about that last night. Like, because
Right?
Stacy mentioned to her friends, a few of her friends, that we just saw Die Hard, and like a few of them made jokes about it being a Christmas movie. And in the car, I'm like, I don't want to spend any oxygen on this. I'm so sick of this joke.
I was literally talking with you about how much I love Die Hard,
I
but
love-
it's a movie you can watch any time
Yeah.
of year. There's nothing particularly Christmassy about it. It's
Bullshit!
Really, listen to me. Except in terms of setting.
I disagree.
I mean, there's a little bit of like family stuff.
Yeah.
Like in terms of themes, not so much.
My favorite stuff in that movie, the older I get, is the marriage on the rocks, the estranged husband wife, and her wanting John to spend the night with her and the kids so they can wake up and have Christmas together.
Yeah.
And the whole movie is him atoning for being an asshole in that argument earlier on to prove to her that that they're still
Yeah.
a couple, and the whole denial of the name, her maiden name on the door, the watch gift she gets from the other guy that she literally breaks off to kill Gruber. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could point to a million things like, no, this is about like the family unit on Christmas mattering. He's got the big bear. Like, it's not that I think it's there's no snow in it, and Santa
Well,
doesn't
actually,
show
you know
up.
what? There is a little bit of snow at the very end.
Yeah, and the cocaine. Yeah, no,
Well, not the cocaine. But the ending shot is like all the paper.
I've never understood the foundation of that joke. I'm like, maybe I'm too blunt skilled to understand. Like, but it's clearly it takes place at Christmas. What are we even debating? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm saying that like I don't feel that it is a Christmas movie. Like it's set at Christmas. There is a bit of a Christmas theme to it, but that's like very low on the list of descriptors you'd use for that movie.
it's become a meme unto itself, and it was a tired joke a decade ago.
Seriously, that's the thing that gets me and why I get so hopped up about. Like, I've been hearing this for like 20 years.
Yeah, we all know. He says ho ho ho.
So I'll throw one out there, kind of in the same vein. I love this movie, Nightmare Before Christmas. I don't like it as a Christmas movie. I
No,
hate
it's
seeing
a
Jack Skellington on lawns at Christmas in the Santa outfit. It's a Halloween movie. Yes, it takes place at Christmas, but there's no Christmas spirit, like to what Kevin was trying to get at about like the themes of Christmas or how you interpret Christmas.
Yeah.
none of that's really there. It's like, yes, how does Jack Skellington interpret Christmas? He interprets it as Halloween.
It kind of plays up. It's more about the chip on the shoulder that Halloween fanatics have, that Halloween isn't considered as big a deal as Christmas, I think.
And here in the
I'm serious,
Northeast,
I think that's,
It is
we
true, but
fucking
like
kill it at Halloween.
that's Tim Burton to a T, right? Like, come on,
Yeah.
Halloween's as cool as Christmas, right?
Oh, yeah, but
you can
like
be
that-
happy. You don't
yeah.
need to be Christmas. You're your own thing.
Look, there's plenty of people who feel that way, but in 1993, it was pretty much just Tim Burton grinding
Yes.
that axe.
I think an overrated Christmas movie, Elf.
I was going to say Elf.
Because again, it's so hard we think about the canon, A Christmas Story, Miracle on 34th Street, Charlie Brown,
Home
Grinch,
Alone.
Home Alone.
Yeah.
It's so hard for the hundreds of Christmas movies and specials
It's just
that
like
come out
music.
every year.
Just like music.
Yep, so few really stick. And to me, Elf is the last thing that's become like people's annual week. If it's Christmas, we have to watch Elf.
You're
It's
taking,
not-
dude,
I know what you mean.
Ryan,
It's
you're
like-
saying word for word what I said about a week ago. I came home and Elf was on, and I said, "Do you think this is the last time one of these stuck?" Because I can't think of a song that stuck. But Elf, 2002, 2000. I saw it in high school in theaters.
2003. I like Elf. I watched it with the family recently for the first time in a long time. And
Yeah.
it's like I do appreciate they don't make this kind of movie anymore, and it is not the most Will Ferrell-y. It's like before Will Ferrell got to be too much.
Well, he and Jon Favreau fought a ton making that movie
Interesting.
because Will Ferrell was trying to scream. That was his joke.
Yeah.
And Jon Favreau's like, "No, I want to make a sincere
hmm
movie here."
It's not the best, and I do agree. It's like it's overplayed. Yeah, it's like it gets more credit than it deserves, but it isn't. It's not a bad movie.
I feel like in the last 10 years, Christmas Vacation's been allowed into the top of the
It's had a second wind
It's
in its
had a
own way.
People-
Yeah, you're right.
People
Yeah.
are kind of like, "Oh wait, this is probably." Home Alone. I didn't realize how detested Home Alone was when it came out, and I love revisiting that hysterical Siskel and Ebert review of Home Alone 3. Have you seen this?
No, go on.
Oh my god, it's
you sent it
dude,
to me and Anthony the other
it's
day.
so fucking funny. Whenever Gene Siskel is in the right, it just highlights how good a talker Ebert is versus Siskel. I'm not trying to throw shade at Gene Siskel, but I think most people remember Ebert more fondly than Siskel. So whenever I see Gene Siskel is just objectively correct in an argument, and he always looks, it's hysterical to me because he always looks so flustered, so confused. He has 15 seconds to get his barbs in, and it's the Home Alone 3 review. Ebert says this is the first good one. It's way better than the first two. And Gene Siskel is literally adjusting in his seat, furrowing his brow, how, what? And he really thinks he's fucking with him, talking about it. And halfway through their spat,
You mean without John Williams' music, it got better? What are you? Yeah.
he says this kid's way better than Macaulay Culkin. And then Siskel goes, "You don't even know the kid's name." And he says,
that's great.
And Gene Siskel, my favorite bit is one point Siskel says something along the lines of "I don't understand what mood you're in." And Gene Ebert says, "Well, I'm probably in just as good a mood as you were when you gave Starship Troopers a good review." And Siskel goes, "Starship Troopers is a good movie." Look it up. It's great.
Yeah,
It's
I will. For a serious underrated comment, and it's not really underrated by people of our generation. I think it's gotten a lot of love recently, but Muppet Christmas Carol.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's been kind of I feel like there's been room made to the table for that one. I feel this is a weird one. The Garfield Christmas special
I
is
love
the,
that one. Yeah.
It's the only Garfield thing I really like, and it's good. It's got one or two really good jokes in the first 15 minutes, and then it just gives you the haymaker with the grandpa stuff.
Yep.
You're like, oh, this is actually what it feels like to be an adult around Christmas. It's that we were talking about it earlier in the car. Yeah.
Yeah. I think another underrated one, maybe not amongst people of our mindset or friend group, but Scrooged, I don't think has the same mass appeal.
It's Scrooged is.
Yeah.
I can't tell if I think it's great or not. I think it was the first movie Ryan, Neal, and I watched together. Or was that Creepshow?
Oh, right around the same time.
We watched Creepshow, and then I think we watched Scrooge shortly after. I mean, Scrooge should be. There's parts of Scrooge that are phenomenal, but you can tell Bill Murray and Richard Donner didn't like Will Ferrell and Jon Favreau.
Yeah, I like Scrooge,
Yeah.
but if I pause it, I might not return to it that night. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like
It's got John Glover, man. It's got that amazing Ghost of Christmas Future. Bobcat Goldthwait,
he's wonderful.
Yeah.
Buster
Karen Allen
Poindexter.
is
Karen Allen's
okay.
perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
but she's the perfect, like, if you're gonna do the male gaze, like, who is the perfect woman to be the one that got away when you're like 40 years old? Karen Allen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's one that I feel like the jury's still kind of out on, right?
Yeah.
Like, are there any Christmas movies? This might be heresy. I've never been blown away by A Christmas Story. I think it's fine.
I don't know if I've ever watched it all the way through as a single film. You know, it's just on TV.
It's,
and I
yeah,
never
there,
stuck with it.
there
yeah.
you go. Exactly. I would argue that they actually kind of oversaturated it at a time and place where cable was on in homes I was either visiting or in. And today, if something's on the screen I don't like, I change it.
I had it on VHS growing up. My dad made me watch all those Gene Shepard movies. We were actually kind of talking about it before we
Yes.
started, so I won't rehash that.
Is
Jingle All the Way.
Jingle All the Way.
I like
I just
Jingle
watched
All the
that
Way.
last night.
Underrated, right?
I had a great time.
It's
Sinbad is
fun.
hilarious
It's
in
really
that movie.
funny.
Another Sinbad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sinbad. I haven't watched it in a long time.
Sinbad's great in it. Phil Hartman's good in it.
Phil Hartman, yeah. There you
Another thing they do is very similar to Coneheads. They never draw attention to Arnold's accent or anything. His name is
Well-
Howard Langsley. He's a Midwestern.
That's kind of a running thing in most
Matt-
Arnold movies.
Yeah, I know.
Just
But
my
like,
favorite customer.
Overrated.
favorite.
Overrated. The Jim Carrey Grinch. Fuck
I
that.
think-
I
movie
didn't see that
sucks.
movie. I didn't see that movie all the way through until a couple of years ago. Ryan and I got together. I had just gone through a breakup and I wanted to watch something dumb, so we watched The Grinch and the second Matrix movie.
Yep.
All right, here's a movie that is correctly rated. Jack Frost, 1998.
Michael Keaton.
What's the?
There you go.
That's it's bad, right?
It's bad and everyone knows.
Michael Keaton and a George Clooney snowman. Do y'all know the story about that?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a George Clooney movie, so
Yeah.
the snowman looks like George Clooney, not Michael Keaton, which is kind of funny
Mm-hmm.
because Batman and Batman.
Oh, yeah.
Are we reanimating that snowman? Absolutely not.
Fuck.
We're not putting another penny into that thing.
Okay. Want to do one more
Question
question?
the third.
Third question. Jeez. The cat's sneaking. So, I'm just trying to like find a quick one.
Yeah, you know.
Okay. You know, I'm okay. Third and final question. Kiri Stone asks, "Did I already do a Kiri Stone question?" Sorry, hold on.
Doesn't ring a bell.
A jingle bell.
Third question from Kiri Stone. The Coneheads movie. It's oddly not the worst movie to come out of the SNL post Wayne's World movie rush. What do you think are the best and worst movies born from that? And seriously, how awesome are Dan Aykroyd and Jane Curtin? Jane Curtin and Dan Aykroyd are two actors I would never have thought to pair together, but they're perfect in this. I think.
I mean, they're famously paired together, but yeah.
because of this. Yeah, but like.
Well, they
outside of-
hosted a Weekend Update, too.
Oh my God, I'm a fool. You're right.
Jane, you ignorant slut.
There you go.
Yeah, she must like.
That'll die.
She must like working with Dan, right?
I bet.
She reminds me a lot of Julie Becker.
Huh.
You see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Post Wayne's World. Have I bought everyone enough time?
I think worst
I'm
is just It's Pat.
Yeah.
Pat,
Is it
sure.
worse than Night at the Roxbury?
I've
That's
never-
Yes.
Yeah.
It's bad.
They're both bad. I'd say
never watched
like,
It's
It's
Pat.
Pat is probably the worst, and then Night at the Roxbury.
We
second.
could do a lot on it. Now while
We
the
won't.
character no,
I'm never.
while the
I don't-
character who's obsessed with like show me what's in your pants
Yep.
is villainized, It's Pat is as transphobic as a film could possibly get.
Oh, sure.
Stuart
I
saves
am
his
not.
family.
I
not
remember
defending-
liking Stuart Saves His Family. Nobody knows about that movie.
Yeah, I've never even heard of it.
It's Pat. The villain does corner Pat in a like a house of mirrors, which is kind of funny. All right, Blues Brothers 2000. That's pretty bad.
Was Superstar funner than I remember?
I
bet it's
saw it, like,
fun.
I tried
once.
rewatching it a couple years ago, and I got 5 minutes in and started fast forwarding and just turned it off.
It's I haven't seen a lot of these movies. I gotta say it's probably Night at the Roxbury just because Chris Kattan's in it.
You know it's an underrated. It's probably it honestly it's not quite Blues Brothers, but it's better than Coneheads. I'd say MacGruber is an underappreciated.
Is it?
SNL. MacGruber's really good. MacGruber. People who like MacGruber. This is the thing that I've seen MacGruber a few times. I've loved it every time I've watched it. I found out recently that Will Forte got paid like $12,000 to be in that movie, and like he puts it all out there, man. Like he does everything. He deserves more than he has.
So
But-
we could afford Will Forte if we really put our
Yeah.
work together. you know?
We could get Will Forte tonight. No, watch MacGruber. MacGruber's fantastic.
I will
The
definitely
show's
try
good, too.
MacGruber sometime. Yeah, my favorite are Wayne's World and Wayne's World 2. I think they're pretty beloved.
You know, here's
Oh,
what.
yeah.
Okay, Wayne's World 2. This has come up recently. Is Wayne's World? I whenever I think of them as equal, like lateral moves. Like, what are you in the mood for? 1 or 2? It's like 2's got the love, the romance plot with Garth and
Rob Lowe and
Yeah.
No, that's one.
That's what.
Christopher Walken's too.
It's a Ghostbusters
Oh,
1 and 2
right,
thing where
right.
like I remember
Thank you.
every now and then with Neil he goes, oh right, that's Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah.
Like that happens sometimes with Wayne's World. But Wayne's World 2, I feel like I'm hearing more and more that people are like a little down on it. Like I thought for the longest time it was kind of like equal.
It's come up more than once.
For real. Like when I brought it up with
yeah.
people like online and shit, it's like, oh no, Wayne's World 2 can't hold
I
the
feel like
candle.
we just talked about this. Like
I feel like we
a
just
week
talked
ago.
about it. Yeah. Is Wayne's World 2 good?
It's serviceable.
when I think of something, I'm certain Robert Patrick as the T-1000 is in 2, correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
in 2.
Yes.
Is the actor at the convenience store being replaced by Charlton Heston in 1?
That's in 2.
That's in 2. Okay, so
Jesus.
2's got
There's
some.
a lot of good stuff in 2. I just think from like, I'm gonna
One's a more complete movie.
Yeah, one's more a complete movie. The other one's a lot more, I'd say, sketches, and then like they had to tie the plot together, those sketches somehow together, so they kind of rehash a lot of the plot and then
Sure.
threw in the festival.
And it's not just like Austin Powers 1 and 2 where it really is beat for beat the same movie. They are different. I mean,
They're different enough. Like Garth has more to do in 2, and that's kind of why I'll go watch 2. Is I'm really kind of watching the Garth scene. Also, what's his name is in it from The Simpsons? Harry Shearer is in it as
right.
Handsome Dan.
Handsome Dan.
Who's Harry Shearer and not handsome at all, but he's got that voice.
Wayne's World 1 has the scene where they have the corporatized version of the Wayne's World theme song. That's kind of under Wayne's World. I'm looking at the Rotten Tomato scores for every SNL movie. It's Pat 0%, Night at the Roxbury 11, Ladies Man 11.
oh, ladies, see, you're right. I love Tim Meadows, but I feel like that's too much of a. That's not enough of a skit to land a movie. It's
Was
not.
that Tim Meadows? I thought that was.
Yeah, it's Tim Meadows.
Yeah, it's Tim
Okay,
Meadows.
It's
Yeah.
been a second since I've seen Ladies Man.
MacGruber has only got 47%, which is.
But you know
bonus.
what year did that come out? It might have just been too far removed from the heyday of when these, which was the 90s.
Yeah. MacGruber's 2010.
Again, I can see MacGruber being really funny and released at the wrong time.
Wayne's World or Blues Brothers? Blues Brothers is the better movie, right?
Well, the question was
Probably. I guess I
post
should
Wayne's
watch it.
World.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Oh,
so-
But like,
Oh,
yeah, Blues
oh,
Brothers
right,
is the
right,
best
right.
of all of them. But,
it's
yeah.
got. I
And
think
it's kind of the only one pre-Wayne's World.
It is the only. Yep.
I would love to watch Blues Brothers with you, Neil, because there's some just astoundingly funny beats. That being said, I've only watched it once all the way through. I watched it in college, and it is hard to go back to. It is over 2 hours.
Yeah, I wonder how this question would work if you opened it up to include movies that aren't based on a sketch, but like are clearly like a bunch of SNL people.
Austin
in it.
Powers.
Right. Austin Powers. Yeah, I mean like
Ghostbusters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing
Tommy
but
Boy.
trouble. Sorry.
Anyway, good question.
Really good question.
Merry
Well,
Christmas.
all right. Yeah. Last question.
All right.
It's from Martin. Stacy, what are you doing?
Playing the racing game.
I know, but we're recording a podcast. You keep making very loud noises. At first, I thought you were like standing up at one point. All right.
Last question from Martin.
The last question is from Martin. Martin says, it's midnight. All of you are stuck in a cabin in the middle of the woods, and the undead are trying to eat you. What's your plan? There is lumberjack gear, building materials, and torches. Suicide. Problem
Yeah,
solved.
there's no winning there, right?
Yeah, right.
Do we Homer and Mr. Burns it and make a rocket cabin?
We build real men out of snow.
I think save your strength. Wait till they're all on one side of the cabin. Run away in the opposite direction, and just that's a
Take an axe.
just
cabin has
outrun
windows,
them.
right?
These are a traditional slow zombies. You're a human being. Like one of our great evolutionary traits is endurance running. So just do that.
This is also
Life finds a way.
This is not some 28 days later shit where they can run,
Yeah.
or something like Walking Dead where I guess they never decompose. You wait them out.
No,
I mean, a
yeah.
week and a half tops.
Just
Wait,
don't wear heels and you're fine.
I didn't know you weren't a 28 Days Later guy. I love.
Oh, I love 28 Days Later, but running zombies, get the fuck out of here. Why are you in better shape than the living? No.
Well, they weren't zombies in 28 Days Later. They were humans who got infected with
They are
neurological disease.
Monkey Madness.
Yeah, they got
The original title of 28 Days Later.
Monkey Madness.
I mean, I would just try to do what they
Starring
did.
Cillian Murphy.
I mean, I'd probably
Shaun of the Dead strategy.
no, not Shaun of the, I mean, Night of the Living Dead, where he's like, we'll just go into the basement and board up, and hopefully they don't come down here. And it would have worked if they weren't racist. At the end.
Have you ever seen The Birds?
Yeah.
The end of The Birds is very like proto zombie movie. I never realized that because I didn't see it till a couple of years ago, and I was really into the
Yeah,
ending.
in a
of it.
way.
Yeah.
I can see that.
I love the end of that movie. Not a zombie movie. Yeah, my suicide would be finding the loudest means to play Thriller possible.
Oh, to mock them?
No, and like just embrace it.
Yeah.
Like that's a hell of a way to die, man.
Yeah.
like just like literally playing Thriller and like letting them break the door down and get me.
I just thought of a terrible way to go. We
Well, you don't want them to
accidentally
get you, though. You want to take yourself out so you don't become a zombie.
Why? I'll be dead.
Well, it depends. Because what if
It's like when you and I have had the debate about what should, like having funerals, and I was like, we were talking about like how some people do open casket and cremation and all that, and you were like, who cares what you do? You're dead. It's this question all over.
So think of Return of the Living Dead. It's kind of implied that like the zombies are conscious and that they're
Day of the Dead.
miserable. Or no, well maybe that too.
You're talking about the one where they talk to it on the table.
Yeah, and it's like I'm in pain. You know, it's just like it's like a fate worse than death.
I'm more of a Raccoon City guy who like you're just brain dead.
So you
They're
think like
they're
it's
toast.
just it's lights out. Your body may live on doing zombie shit,
Unless
Ryan,
you're
how would you
named-
commit suicide?
but you're just watching, laughing from heaven. Is that?
Yeah,
Well, honestly, what I'm
that'd be a
picturing,
great story. That'd be a good pickup line.
what
in
I'm
heaven.
picturing right now
Pickup line in heaven.
is we have one cell phone hooked up to a portable battery, a charge or something. That's this blaring Thriller. It is the best sound system we have available in a cabin in the woods. We tried to make a fire, but the flue of the chimney is all gunked up. So we're all just laying there, lifeless on the floor, from carbon monoxide poisoning. And we have accidentally done ourselves in, the silent killer, whereas all the zombies basically between sunlight and fresh air are gone. And we would have been fine with like an open window and a little common sense. And somebody finds our body just blare. Like, we're more disgusting than the zombies when they find what's left of us. While playing Thriller, it's just pumping.
Someone take a
No,
note.
the playlist is continued and it's playing like Jackson 5 songs or just like Tito
Just a
Jackson.
little bit of you every day.
Sometimes I feel I've got to.
What,
That was undignified.
Neil, you got a pen and paper out. Take a note that we need to do a zombie sketch that ends with the sun coming out and the zombies relenting and hissing like vampires. Because it just seems like someone should have done that. Zombies can't be out during the day. It says fucking who?
They get really dry.
They get tired. Those are great questions. Some of them were even about the Coneheads. I didn't notice until the end. Thanks everybody for writing in. This is a long episode. I'm going to try and edit very little of it out.
It's a good episode.
Yeah. I think we have 3 hours of audio to start with. Ryan, what did you say earlier? Crackless nippled ass?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the...
Could you say it again?
While David Spade is kissing those crackless, nippled asses.